In order to make the murder succeed, variables like Tenko's position and the placement of the cage needed to be defined. And those variables were defined by using the magic circle. In short, the circle itself was the most important tool in this murder. Knowing that, the person who drew the magic circle has to be the culprit. Wait a minute. Maybe the culprit used touch. They didn't see, they felt. That's it! The magic circle! They used the magic circle. Remember? The magic circle was drawn with salt. The culprit used the salt's texture to feel their way through the dark. Okay, got it. This helped a lot, Kibo. Without you, I never would have seen through Kyo's lie. You just said that you drew the magic circle exactly as it appears in the document. But that's a lie, isn't it? The magic circle at the scene had lines that stretched to the room's corners, which means that you would be able to find the floorboard from anywhere in the room. So, Kyo, if you have any objections, you can... True, we could have placed the sickle there, but we could not have removed it later, because we weren't the ones who lifted the cage. That was Himiko. The only person who could have set up the sickle and retrieved it afterward is Kyo. That was done by covering the cage with a white cloth. You could have secretly placed the sickle when you draped the cloth, and retrieved it afterward when you removed the cloth. A monster? The sickle was at the top of the iron cage, with the blade facing down. The reason we didn't see it was because of the fabric covering the cage. Also, the wooden statue kept the blade in place. It's true that the sickle's handle was thick, which made the statue wobble, but the statue's weight kept it from falling over. Once everything was in place, if you stepped hard enough on the seesaw, Tenko's body would have shot upward and hit the blade on the top of the cage. She was bent over, meaning the sickle's blade would have connected with her neck. Himiko. Tsumugi is correct. I believe Himiko was being set up. Himiko only picked that room because Kyo wanted it as dark as possible. What do you mean? Ah, that's right. Kokichi found another loose floorboard in one of the other rooms. It's just like Gonta said. Each room was the same. They were all trapped. Kokichi will tell you. While you were in the room next to the crime scene, you found a loose floorboard, right? Himiko, do you remember what Tenko told you? Live life facing forward. She said that to you, right? If you give up on living, you'd be betraying her memory. We're all trying to keep our promises to the dead. This trial, it's not just for our lives. It's for everyone who's died as well. That's why we can't give up. This is our responsibility. We live on. Your soul, bro? It's because of the magic circle at the scene of the crime. Before we began the seance, we were warned not to step on the circle. The floorboard in question was within the circle. That's why no one stepped on it. Kyo, was it you? I'm talking about Tenko's murder, because you were the one who drew the magic circle. The circle kept us from discovering the seesaw trick, but that's not all it was for. She was bent over with her forehead against the marker stone, and the cage itself was about 3 feet tall. The sickle's blade was too short to reach Tenko while she was in that position. No, if there was someone else in the cage, we would have noticed. I believe Maki is referring to Tenko herself. All right, I'll give you a reason. Yes, there is. Will you trust me, Maki? If it turns out I'm wrong, you can blame me all you like. But for now, I need you to trust in my detective work. Tenko couldn't have thrown the sickle under the floor because she died instantly. I'm certain of it. My investigation determined that she died instantly. Maki. It's okay, Kaito, really. No apology necessary. Anyway, Tenko died so suddenly that she couldn't have gotten rid of the sickle. Knowing that, the theory that she killed herself just doesn't fit, correct? Himiko, you think that something fell because of that sound you heard, right? I think the floorboard coming off had something to do with that sound. That floorboard came loose at some point during the seance, right? Kokichi is right. The floorboard came loose because someone stomped on it. When we first saw the room, yes. But when I looked again during the investigation, one of the crosspieces supporting the floorboards was cut off. After examining the cut, I concluded that it must have been done deliberately. That's right. The floorboard might have been used as a seesaw. The crosspiece at one end of the floorboard had been cut off. The other two cross pieces holding up that board were close to the cage, meaning if you were to apply force to the end of the floorboard with no crosspiece, the next crosspiece would act as a fulcrum to turn the floorboard into a lever capable of lifting up Tenko's entire body. That's exactly it. Using the seesaw trick, it was possible to kill Tenko with a sickle. In order for the culprit to kill Tenko with a seesaw trick, the placement of the sickle is the most important factor. But I can't imagine the culprit would have done all this just for a distraction. Yeah, maybe. It was me, Kyo, Himiko, and Kokichi. You're talking about under the floor, right? Yes, there's a crawl space under the floor a person could move through. There was also a hole that connected it to the neighboring room. Mew, you gave Kibo his flashlight function, correct? Did you not notice? The drawback of the flashlight function that you added. It's so bright, even Kibo can't see when it's turned on. If he can't see, it doesn't matter how bright the area is. He couldn't move like that. So Kibo couldn't have been underneath the floor. Yes. The culprit couldn't have used a light under the floor. Not even Kibo. We were there after all. We would know. There was a hole near the corner of the room we were in, remember? If someone had a light under the floor, it would have leaked through. That's right. We didn't see anything, so the culprit couldn't have used a light. I don't think the culprit could have used a light while under the floor. There was a hole in the corner of the room. If a light were used, it would have leaked through and we would have seen it. No, it wasn't possible to kill her the moment the cage was lifted, because the inside of the white cloth had Tenko's blood on it. That cloth was removed before the cage was lifted. If Tenko was stabbed then, there wouldn't be blood on the cloth. The only possibility is that Tenko was killed during the seance. What? But the weapon was a sickle. Only the blade could have fit through the gaps. Wait just a minute. Tenko wasn't sitting down inside the cage. Then let me ask you, culprit, how did you lock the room? No, that doesn't make sense. Maybe, but that's not how the culprit locked the room. They used a different method. There were two doors to the classroom, and the one locked last was the back door. That's how they made this a locked room mystery. The culprit used a certain tool, the gold leaf katana that was stabbed into Kaede's effigy. The culprit used that to hit the knob of the sliding lock to lock the door, because when the katana hit the lock, some of the gold leaf rubbed off on it. The gold leaf on that katana did peel rather easily. The clue that might give us the answer is the layout of the area itself. It was an odd setup after all. The katana stabbed into the effigy. The effigies hung upside down. No. Nowhere in the Necronomicon did it say you had to hang the effigies. That's it. The reason the culprit stuck the katana into the effigy was so that it would hit the sliding lock as the effigy spun. That's right. If you spun the effigy, the rope it was hanging from would twist. Then, if you let it go, the rope would unwind and the effigy would spin the other way. And of course, the katana would spin with it. Yes, that's how Angie's lab was locked, by using the effigy with the katana. The sliding lock was pretty loose. A little push could move it. As long as the spinning katana hit the lock, it would have slid into position. In any case, the culprit probably used the murder weapon for this trick. It had to have been the right length to hit the sliding lock from the effigy. But Kokichi did say earlier that he could have picked the lock closed. I don't want to completely ignore that possibility. And thus, the gym and the lab windows were connected by a single rope. After making a hanger of sorts with another length of rope tied to the inner tube, they hung the inner tube on the rope connecting the windows. That's how the culprit created the ropeway that was used to move the body. An impressive premeditated murder. But the culprit made two crucial mistakes. The culprit got on the inner tube with Ryoma's body and slid toward the gym. With the height difference between the windows, they would have built up quite some speed. To avoid crashing through the window, the culprit used a brake. They used their own hand to grip the rope and slow down. That would have caused significant rope burn had the culprit not been wearing gloves. But due to the friction, part of a glove tore off and dropped in the pool. Regardless, the culprit reached the window and put Ryoma's body into the piranha tank. The glass pane not only kept the piranhas and the body separated, it also kept the piranhas so close together, they concealed the body. After that, All the culprit had to do was untie the rope and the inner tube, but that's when they made their second mistake. One end of the rope came loose, and the inner tube dropped into the pool. Thus, the culprit was forced to leave two key pieces of evidence: the fabric and the inner tube. They couldn't retrieve the evidence because of the rule against swimming at nighttime. And that's the whole story. Am I wrong, Kirumi Tojo? The ultimate maid? Kirumi, that's the conclusion I reached. Do you have any objections? I don't think Angie's ritual succeeded. According to the Necronomicon Monokuma showed us, you have to burn the Necronomicon in the ritual. If Angie's ritual had succeeded, the book would have been gone. No, Kyo would not have been able to enter Angie's lab. Isn't that right, Tsumugi? And Kyo is not a member. She wouldn't have opened the door for him. No, it wasn't just student council members that could have opened that lab door. I was referring to Kyo. He couldn't have done it, but you could have, because I saw you open the classroom lock by picking it. He's lying, I'm certain of it. And all that was left were his bones and the handcuffs he was wearing. That horrifying sight was the finishing touch on the culprit's own twisted magic trick. The culprit obfuscated the time and place of the murder, implicating Himiko in the process. In truth, the crime began last night, around 8:55 p.m. While preparing for the show in the gym, the culprit had a chance to be alone. It was then that the culprit used the ladder to reach the piranha tank and removed the glass lid to put inside the tank. They used it as a partition to force the piranhas to one side of the tank. Next, the culprit took the rope from the stage wing in the gym and used the ladder once more, this time to climb up to the gym's window. Once there, they opened the window and tied one end of the rope to the window frame. The rope was then thrown out the window toward the pool. These preparations were key for the culprit's elaborate plan. At nighttime, past midnight, the culprit asked Ryoma to meet at his lab. All the pieces were in place. The culprit was ready to murder. First, the culprit knocked Ryoma out, probably striking him from behind. Then, they put the handcuffs from the shower room on Ryoma's wrists and shoved his head into the sink filled with water. From the water and the pain of drowning, Ryoma should have woken up and struggled. The culprit anticipated his resistance, which is why Ryoma was handcuffed. The struggle left scrapes on the cuffs and sink. But in the end, Ryoma succumbed. Ryoma was dead. But the culprit's plan had only just begun. They removed the cable from the tennis net and hung it from the window facing the pool. And then, at the pool, they connected the wire and the rope from the gym window. They returned to the lab after picking up one last thing: the rubber inner tube that was in the pool's tool shed. Once back in the lab, the culprit pulled the cable, bringing up the rope. They pulled until the rope was taut, then tied it to the lab's window frame. If it was indeed Kirumi who moved the body with a makeshift ropeway, then the final clue falls into place: the damning evidence that proves Kirumi is the culprit. I'm doing this because I want to protect everyone. Your words aren't going to convince me now. Not when I know the truth. The piece of black fabric in the pool. That's the final clue that proves you're guilty. It's been bothering me for a while. I couldn't figure out what it was. I thought it was just trash at first, but I couldn't dismiss it entirely. Now that the class trial has come this far, I know for certain it's an important piece of the puzzle because, like the inner tube, it's evidence the culprit couldn't dispose of. Using the ropeway, you could slide the inner tube from the lab to the gym, but how would you control it? If it kept sliding and hit the window, the momentum would have thrown the body off. To prevent that from happening, the culprit needed some way to adjust the speed. For example, the culprit could have used their hands for friction. No, it's not just trash. It's proof that you're the culprit. The piece of fabric came from Kirumi's black glove. If the culprit were slowing their descent by grabbing the rope with their hands, there would have been a lot of friction, easily enough to cause rope burn. But our culprit was smart. They weren't burned because they weren't bare-handed. The extra uniforms in our rooms are made of the same material we're wearing now. We can test my theory by comparing the fabric scrap with your glove. I will show you the truth. The victim's body was found this morning during Himiko's underwater escape act. When we saw the piranhas in the tank, We thought that Himiko's escape failed. Of course, it was all part of the act. Himiko's escape went perfectly, but when Angie opened the curtain in front of the tank, we saw Ryoma with piranhas swarming around him before any of us could react. The piranhas devoured Ryoma's body. On the contrary, once we rule out the second floor, we know who the culprit is. Because preparing the ropeway required time to be spent in the gym, it's extremely likely that the culprit helped set up the magic show. In short, Himiko, Angie, Kaito, or Kirumi. Yes, only Kirumi. Right. The only person who could have prepared this murder is Kirumi. No, the only person who could have prepared this murder is Kirumi. Well, the preparations in the gym in any case. Before the culprit could put the body into the tank, several steps needed to be taken. That's right. Ryoma's body entered the gym from the window, but that required preparation. That could only have been done when Kirumi was by herself in the gym before nighttime. Not enough time for the whole murder, but enough time to set it up. Enough time to tie the rope on the window frame and put the pain in the piranha tank. What do you mean by crux of the argument? How is it just a guess? I have evidence. The abrasions left on the window frames at the gym and the lab. Just tying the rope to the frame wouldn't cause so much damage. The rope that was tied to the frames must have been weighed down significantly. The frames didn't break, but they were left with distinct marks. I made a promise. As the ultimate detective, I made a promise to seek the truth. I made a promise to Kaede. So I'm not turning back now. No, there is. I have proof that you're the culprit. I realized it when we determined that the ropeway was used to move the body. And because the third floor window is higher up, gravity would have pushed the inner tube along. The inner tube is made of sturdy rubber as well. It could have supported 2 people. The culprit used the ropes and the inner tube to construct a rudimentary ropeway and used it to move themselves and Ryoma's body from the lab to the gym. Once through the gym window, the culprit stood on the inner tube to move the body. Either that, or the culprit placed their foot on the windowsill. That way would be more stable and let them handle the corpse more carefully. Finally, they removed the rope from the window frame and left the scene. I believe that was an accident. Yes. When the culprit was taking down the inner tube, they accidentally dropped it. Even if they wanted to get it, they couldn't, because this took place at nighttime. No, actually, save for that one mistake, this was the perfect crime. Okay. You believe in my detective skills? There's one more thing I still have to confirm. But Kirumi is the prime suspect. The wrong choice? Maybe we can't prove everyone's alibi, but we can still pinpoint the culprit. Last night, Kaito and I heard Maki speaking with Ryoma, but I haven't mentioned what happened after. Kirumi, any thoughts? Yes, we did. But I couldn't fall asleep, so I was awake until morning, which allowed me to hear a certain sound in the night. Last night, I heard the sound of someone leaving their room and exiting the dorm, and after some time, I heard the sound of them returning. Indeed, it doesn't. But I didn't hear the sound of someone going down the stairs, which must mean that whoever left has a room on the first floor. No one on the second floor left the dorm that night. No swimming is allowed at nighttime, so a living person could not have gone in. The sink in Ryoma's lab. There were distinct scratch marks on it, and I believe those scratches were caused by the handcuffs. They were scratched as well, correct? There's also the fact that the handcuffs were from Ryoma's lab. The marks on the sink came from the handcuffs in the same room. The size and shape of the scratches are consistent with the handcuffs. I'm sure. It's actually not far at all. Although perhaps it's more accurate to say there's a shortcut. The shortcut is the window in Ryoma's lab. That's right. None of the windows in this school open, except the one in Ryoma's lab. And on top of that, the window faced the pool. You could see the gym straight across. I've got it! Ryoma's body was moved directly from his lab to the gym. No, I don't believe he was thrown. But perhaps another way. The rope found behind the gym stage could have been used to connect the windows. The tennis net cable from Ryoma's lab could serve as a rope. Kokichi, are you hinting at something? What? Together? Yeah. Yes, that's it. The culprit used something like a ropeway to move the body. It's the inner tube. The rubber inner tube we found floating in the pool. Remember the inner tube we found in the pool with a rope on one side? Maybe the rope was originally tied on both sides. The culprit made a ropeway by hanging the tube from the rope connecting the windows. I had no reason to bring it up. That is true. If I knew for certain, I would have said so sooner. But considering the circumstances, I can't imagine it being anyone but Ryoma. None of us were talking to Maki last night, correct? So it must have been him. Anyway, I know that we heard those voices. Maki is not lying. That's right. You can believe me. You might be able to reach the tank from the window above the stage. It's true that you cannot enter the gym at nighttime. But a corpse could. I am positive that the window was how the culprit moved the body. However, I'm also positive the pane dividing the piranha tank was set up beforehand. The only reason the ladder reached the window was because it was on the stage. If you used the ladder on the pool side, it would not quite make it. The ladder could barely reach the window when it was on the stage. And there is nothing on the pool side of the gym as tall as the stage. Finally, the ladder was found in the gym, correct? If the culprit used the ladder on the pool side, we wouldn't have found it in the gym. I actually don't know that yet. The culprit definitely moved the body through the window, but I don't know how. I know, I have to do something, but yes, that's it. We were so caught up in where the body was found, when we should have been thinking about where the murder occurred. Thank you, Maki. That was a helpful insight. The pool could not have been the scene of the murder. Ryoma was killed at nighttime. Huh? You believe in her? But based on what? I'll believe in Maki as well. That's our Kaito, right? Making us think with our hearts. But there's no proof linking Maki or Kaito to this crime either. I believe in innocent until proven guilty. For now, they are innocent. And by the way, I might be the ultimate detective, but I'm in training. I told you that, didn't I? I'm just an apprentice, not a real detective. That would be Kokichi. So you saw the motive videos. Did you tell Ryoma that Maki had his? Well then, why don't we ask Kokichi? You never answered my question. Were you the one who told Ryoma that Maki had his motive video? Yes, it is important. Because if Kokichi told Ryoma, it becomes more likely that Ryoma visited Maki during nighttime. Now you understand why I don't want your charade. I want the truth, just as I thought. I might not be able to prove they met, but I can prove Maki wasn't alone. Well, Kaito and I trained together every night. And yesterday, because of the insect meet and greet, we started late. Kaito, don't worry. You don't have to say anything. Anyway, we were doing some frog squats on the school stairs when we heard two people talking. We knew one of them was Maki, but we couldn't pick out the other one. But now that I think about it, it must have been Ryoma, because until just now, I didn't think it was relevant. Himiko would have had to pull them out before she went inside. There certainly wasn't enough room in the staircase for both of them. But that means, if the tank was empty when Gonta looked, Ryoma's body must not have been hidden in the staircase. Kyo's hypothesis is correct. The body and the piranhas were separated. This was accomplished using the square glass pane found in the tank, unless a certain something was used to obscure the body. We all agree that the glass pane was used to separate the body from the piranhas, correct? Well, that method has the added benefit of hiding the body from view. It was the piranhas. The piranhas were obscuring the body. That's right. Remember what Angie said during the investigation? It seemed that way, but it wasn't that the actual number of piranhas increased. The glass pane divided the tank nearly in half, right? The piranhas got crowded together, making it look like there were more of them. It was done yesterday, before nighttime. If we can find out who last saw Ryoma alive, we can narrow down the time of death. Kirumi, you were asking everyone when they had last seen him, right? No, I think Kirumi is telling the truth. Kokichi's story proves it. Kokichi met Kirumi at 9 p.m., and they were together until nighttime. Kokichi, you're talking about Mew, right? If you compare everyone's statements, there's no other possibility. No, it's Mew, without a doubt. Mew and Gonta's statements prove it. Maybe we should determine the sequence of events. The culprit So, it wasn't the culprit who took the video from his room. It was you. It was Maki's motive video, right? Yes, you're right. Wait just a minute. What are you trying to... Kaito, wait! Maybe Kokichi is wrong. Maybe he... The Monokuma file indicates the cause of death is drowning. Ryoma was already drowned before the show started. Maki is correct. There was an escape hatch on that tank. That's right. I discovered a similar tank in Himiko's lab. There was a panel on the side that could open. That was her escape. What do you mean? Wait a second. Before you punch me, what makes you so sure she didn't? There was a reason the room wasn't flooded with water. The staircase that was attached to the water tank. Try to remember how the staircase was positioned. It was aligned perfectly with the tank's escape hatch, meaning the water tank was connected to the inside of the staircase. Knowing that, it's clear how Himiko made her escape from underwater. There was a curtain covering the tank during the performance, allowing Himiko to enter the staircase from the hatch undetected. Any water that spilled out would have simply funneled into the staircase. The staircase also has an escape hatch, one facing away from us. It's placed so that the water would not drain from the staircase. However, that person would be soaked, meaning that some trace should be left. It's because she changed her uniform. Someone did see inside the tank. It was Gonta. Gonta had climbed onto the stage and was looking into the tank from above. Isn't that right, Gonta? No, that's actually a great clue. Because if Ryoma's body was hidden inside the staircase, Rantaro noticed the flash and approached the bookcase to inspect the camera. The camera flash lured Rantaro directly into the murder weapon's path. The shot the culprit tossed into the vent rolled through the air duct, came out of the library's vent, and kept rolling atop the bookcase. Opening the vent grate and organizing the books was all to create a path. Under normal circumstances, the victim would have been alerted by the noise, but the promotional video was masking the sound of the shot rolling. The shot kept rolling, then fell on Rantaro's head, killing him instantly. By the time we had entered the room, the murder was complete. I imagine, seeing Rantaro's body, the culprit probably thought, the mastermind is dead, the game is over, now we can all go home. But their wish didn't come true, because Rantaro wasn't the mastermind. It was murder, in an attempt to save all our lives. That is the truth. That's the truth behind your lies, Kaede Akamatsu, the ultimate pianist. And that concludes the events of this case. No, that's not true, Kaede! You were trying to save all of it. What? Kaede, why? Why are you smiling like that? Why are you still trying to get me to be brave? Why, Kaede? Why are you thinking about everyone except yourself? If you had just been less selfless, you wouldn't have had to murder. Why? Why do you do that? Maybe Himiko is right. The underwater escape might be real magic, because from what I've seen, there is no trick or gimmick in that tank. No, that's not it. No, Ryoma's death was not caused by the piranhas, but even then, the culprit was preparing the murder. They began by removing the vent grate and laid it inside the air duct. Then, they moved the pile of books on top of the bookcase, pretending to organize them. After that, they placed open encyclopedias on the final bookcase. It appeared innocuous enough, but it was actually a path for the murder weapon. The culprit also tampered with the hidden camera linked to the security sensor. I was responsible for setting up the other cameras, but that one, I didn't even notice their trick. They used duct tape to keep the flash function on. After the cameras were set, the culprit and I climbed the stairs to the first-floor classroom. We kept a lookout for the others and waited for the security sensor to go off. During the stakeout, we saw Kaito and 6 others go down to the basement. Rantaro was with them, the first victim. After watching that group enter the game room, I returned to the classroom. With about 1 hour remaining, the security receiver I was holding went off. I assumed it was the mastermind, so I ran out of the classroom to the library. I was in such a hurry, I left the culprit behind. Looking back on it now, that was the last chance I had to stop the murder. After I had left, the culprit took the shot put ball out of their backpack and rolled it into the classroom vent. This set the murder in motion. Rantaro had moved the bookcase, triggering the receiver. Unbeknownst to him, the trap had been sprung. First, the modified camera took a picture of Rantaro with the flash on. Isn't that right, Kaede? But it's all my fault. Kaede trusted my detective skills. I told her the mastermind might be there, and that's why she set that trap. It's all my fault. She trusted my detective work, and I screwed it up. Kaede, what? I understand. I'll end all of this. I'll reveal everything. The truth and the lies. It all began 2 days prior, when Monokuma gave us the additional motive. The time limit added to this killing game triggered the crime. After the announcement, some of us decided to form groups to plan our next move. I had my own plan to find the mastermind, and someone offered to help me. At the time, I never would have imagined they would become the culprit. To expose the mastermind, the culprit and I set up hidden cameras in the library. There was a hidden door in the library that showed signs of use. We deduced that the mastermind would return there to let Monokuma out. The next day, we asked Mew if she could modify some cameras for our trap. We then went to the warehouse to gather the necessary materials. All we needed were disposable cameras and a security sensor. But the culprit found something else there. The murder weapon. That's right, the shot put ball. They put the cameras as well as the shot in their backpack. Then, on the day the time limit would expire, the day of the murder, the culprit and I collected the modified cameras from Mew and visited the library. Once there, we searched the room for ideal locations to place the cameras, rolled along the groove of the open books, and fell on top of his head. And it was the camera flash that lured him to that exact spot. The moment we ran out of the classroom. When the sensor went off, I ran out first, and then Kaede followed. But just before she left, I'm right, aren't I, Kaede? The murder occurred while the Killing Game promotional video was being broadcast, so the library would not have been completely quiet at the time. That's correct. I was with her in the classroom, and when she moved the vent grate aside, and when she lined up the books on top of the bookcase. And it was the same when you took the murder weapon, wasn't it? You took the shot put ball when you got the cameras for Mew, right, Kaede? Kaede's backpack. She was carrying the shot put ball in there. Despite its weight, it would have been easy to carry in a backpack. I noticed you also had a spare vest, which you could have wrapped it in. That would prevent the cameras you were carrying from being damaged. No, something still doesn't fit. Kaede wouldn't do something like that. Yes, I did say that. But murder in cold blood is just not in her character. I truly believe that. I believe in her. Not at all. My belief in you is going to lead me to the truth. I'll show you what's behind all this. I'll show you your truth. You weren't persuaded by Monokuma. And you weren't trying to save yourself. What you were trying to do was kill the mastermind. Kaede wasn't targeting Rantaro. She was targeting the mastermind. She was trying to end this killing game. She was trying to save us all. So, the shot is rolled into the vent, passes through the duct, and comes out of the air vent above the library bookcase. Well, actually, maybe the shot didn't pass through the vent. That's true, but I just remembered the library's vent was closed. So I think my deduction might be wrong. What? No, that's a lie. It's just like Ryoma said. The shot rolled along the top of the bookcase and fell on Rantaro's head. It has nothing to do with convenience. The shot rolled exactly how the culprit wanted. They used books on top of the bookcases to direct the path of the shot. It would be easier to explain with a floor plan of the library. Mew, I recall that during the investigation, you said you would use your drone to make a floor plan. Please, Mew. It's just as I thought. See? The books are stacked like stairs from the vent to where Rantaro's body was found. Yes, I'm sure of it. The shot was rolled into the classroom vent and came out in the library. If the vent was open, the shot would have maintained momentum. And you did that, right, Kaede? You made sure the vent was open. When the shot came through, the stacked books made it change direction. It then rolled down the path made by the books. The books were stacked in rows so that the shot wouldn't fall off. At the same time, the books blocked the shot from view. Then, when the ball was directly above Rantaro, it changed direction This is the picture taken when I removed the front camera. And this is the picture from when I removed the rear camera. And this is the picture of Rantaro. Because only the camera aimed at the hidden door had the flash turned on. It's no mistake. There was an objective here. That camera was placed for another reason. Kaede, I know what you want me to do. That's so cruel. It's cruel, but I understand. I'll do it. You can trust me. I won't let your wish go ungranted. Kaede is the culprit. No, I'm not joking around. Kaede definitely killed Rantaro. Of course I am. How Kaede killed Rantaro with the shot put ball should become clear when you consider where she used it. Kaede didn't use the shot put ball at the scene of the crime. She used it at the first floor classroom, where we were keeping watch. She rolled it. She rolled the shot from the first floor classroom and hit Rantaro. It is possible. If you do it at the right spot in the classroom, it will reach the library, the classroom's vent. If you were to roll the shot in there, it would reach the library. While investigating the mastermind, I placed dust on the card reader. If anyone swiped their card key, the dust would have fallen. Yes. I'm sorry. I guess I forgot to tell you. I didn't think it would affect the plan. I didn't realize it would matter. I guess I just forgot to mention it. I'm really sorry. Yeah. Huh? Kaede. Huh? The picture. The picture from the camera aimed at the hidden door, just before the murder. I always thought it was suspicious, the way Rantaro was acting. If you look at the picture, it looks like Rantaro is trying to remove the camera, but that must mean he noticed the camera we set up. I believe it was when the camera took its first picture. This picture was taken when Rantaro moved the bookcase. At that moment, something made him notice the camera, so he tried to remove it, and that's when the bookcase closed. The sensor was triggered, and that's when this picture was taken. I've been contemplating what it could be. Why did he notice the camera? And the answer is in this picture. Yes, the flash went off when the hidden door camera took a picture. Rantaro noticed the camera's flash. Well, if you compare it to the other pictures that we have, remember the pictures that were taken when I took down the cameras? But we survived, and that's the truth. Aren't we proof of that? In this fictional world, we overcame all these fictional struggles, but those things changed us, and we were able to change the world. So it doesn't really matter where the truth ends and where the lies begin. If lies can change the world just as well as the truth can, then lies are just another way of telling the truth. Some lies can lead the world to hope. Some truths can lead the world to despair. So I don't think anyone can really say which is more right in the end. We stand with one foot in fiction and one foot in reality. Yeah, let's go. We'll see what this world gained and what it lost, and all the rest. Let's find out together. Then we could start by determining the sequence of events. Let's take a closer look at the circumstances of Rantaro's death. But none of the pictures show Rantaro holding the card key, so I don't really think he had the key at all. Kaede. It's all right, Kaede. We just need to listen to everyone's statements. You can do this, right? You just have to tell everyone why you couldn't have done it. The sliding door across from the rear entrance, correct? And there was no indication of the door being forced. There was dust on the track. Actually, the camera wouldn't be triggered just by opening the door. The moving bookcase. When Rantaro was killed, it should have been open. I think it was from the warehouse. I saw track and field equipment there. Huh? It's nothing. I don't think the hidden door was ever used. Heroes? What? Kokichi's? Yes. The fate of humanity? What's the point? Even if this ridiculous mission is a success and we all survive, what's the point? Why try so hard to save the seeds of humanity? I don't understand. Huh? Yeah. What are you guys talking about? I don't know if I can stand it. I'd have to leave everyone behind. Huh? I'm everyone's... Damn it! Everyone run! A class trial. We're all gonna do a class trial. One last time. What? This little thing? What? You mean Like a security camera? Are you okay? Himiko, careful. Yeah, why are we alive? I wonder. But not Maki. She did everything she could to get you back. It's because she believes in you, Kaito. She knows that you would never give up, no matter how bad things got. Yeah, that's right, Kaito. Got it. By the way, are you feeling okay? Apart from the injury, obviously. Okay, sure. And hey, Kaito, about what happened with Gonta. What? Yeah. Yes, I understand. You're right. See you tomorrow, Kaito. What? What is this? What's going on? A black bag? Huh? The meteorites, right? You can skip that part. Hey, what's going on? Gopher Project? That's the Remnants of Despair's doing. Gopher Project participants are classified. Yeah, I get that a lot. Just a case of mistaken identity, I'm afraid. They're all students from Hope's Peak Academy, aren't they? I'm just a normal high school student. I don't have any special talent. Don't worry about that. Hey, listen, should you really be outside right now? The meteor... No, I've heard the Gopher Project doesn't exist to save us. Have you heard the rumor? All the participants died in an accident. How would you know that? The Gopher Project wasn't created to save us. Never mind. Hey, less talking, more working. What about your sit-ups? Kaito? Hey! No fair, Kaito! Didn't you just say we didn't have to decide that? Kaito, you're kind of bad at this. Well, I have been meaning to ask. When we first met, you said you were the ultimate child caregiver. Why was that? Really? Sorry. What is it? Yeah, let's do that. Kokichi! Kaito! What? Please what? Are you sure about that? I don't know if the sensor will work. Okay, let's do it. But get out of there if it's dangerous, okay? Kokichi! Kill everyone! Kaito! A virus carried by meteorites that spread across the globe, Hope's Peak Academy, along with the rest of the planet, was in danger of extinction, even though we had come so far and triumphed over so much despair. That's right! The cult organization out to destroy the Gopher Project. If Kokichi is the leader, that means he controls the remnants of despair. Out of all of us, he is the closest to the ultimate despair. Kaito! Is he close by? Yeah, that's true. What am I doing here? Saving you, of course. No, I'm just scouting the place. Tomorrow morning, we're all coming to rescue you. It was Maki's idea. Honestly, I had given up. We had all given up. Hey, Kaito. No slacking today, yeah? I'm counting your reps. I thought we were doing 100. Ultimate Academy Student Council? What is it? Probably not, but overthinking things and worrying about what I need to do. When I'm with Kaito, I feel like all of that stuff just fades away. I don't know if I'd call it looking up to him. It's just that I've never been around someone so relaxed and impulsive. I think that's exactly what I've been missing all this time. It's made of iron. No wonder it's heavy. Even with 4 people, it's still really heavy. Young guard dog and little lost girl, sealed within an iron cage at mountain's bottom, within the darkness. At last, at long last. How many will there be by dawn? Will there be 2 or just 1? Will the guard dog run far away? Or did it eat the little girl? At last, at long last. Kaito, calm down! Yeah, but she looks so peaceful sleeping like that. Huh? Sure. Wow, you're good at this, aren't you? What? 1, 2, 3. Maki, you're way too fast. I won't be afraid anymore. I will face the truth for everyone. I won't give up. For your sake, Kaede, I promise. From the bottom of my heart, I promise you, Kaede. Good morning. No, I just felt like it was getting in the way is all. I don't want to live. I want to die with everyone else. Kaito? Why do I have to do this? I never do push-ups. My arms are giving out. Huh? What's going on? I don't know what he's up to, but it's probably better not to be here. Huh? Gonta? Huh? What? Hell? What happened, Kokichi? You said you'd be back by nighttime. Is this your doing, Kokichi? Did you have Gonta kidnap us? Could this be? You can just barely reach the window with this. And if you open the curtain, oh, the window is open. I can't see much. But I think it's the pool. Oh, wait. What is this? Nothing. It just looks like marks on the window frame. Just as I suspected. The window you can see from the pool is the window to Ryoma's lab. Ah! What was that for? Okay, that's how you got your ultimate title? That's way more impressive than me. What is this? We're trapped? It swings open. Look, there's a door behind it. Kaede, I'm begging you too. We could really use your help, Mew. Please? Look, you can see the staircase, right? Do you want to switch? Sorry. Did you break something, Kaede? So how's it look? Could a person fit in there? Well, we'll be able to see the entrance to the vent in the classroom. So that should be okay, right? The look on his face when we caught him. I can still see it even now. He stared at me. Like he hated me more than anything else in the world. Later, I heard that he murdered the victim to get revenge for his family. The victim was abusive. They drove the culprit's relative to suicide. People told me the culprit was right to do what he did. The victim deserved it, but I led the police right to him. Of course he hated me. Kaede? Okay, I'll try. I don't know if I can, but I'll try. When did you have time to make this? What? Kaede. Yeah, I'll help. Yeah, I'll try. I don't know if I can do it, but no, I'll do it. I have to believe in myself. I still think Kaito is the culprit. Thinking of it that way makes all the pieces fit. No matter how cruel that truth may be, we need to face it. To survive, he needed leverage. He gave Kaito the antidote in exchange for his cooperation, but they weren't. That implies that they weren't watching us. They were watching him. In my opinion, as long as it is possible that Gonta is the culprit, we have to discuss it. Korekio Shinguchi, the ultimate anthropologist. You're the culprit behind these murders. Not necessarily. If we heard a noise at the chapel from inside the mansion, then the loop, that was intentional. The body is mostly hidden by the press, making the swap easier. Use the salon phone to log out. Objects are unbreakable. Your avatars use all 5 senses. But we had no idea this error even happened. And so we all logged in one by one. It's just that something doesn't add up. I have this feeling something's off. What? Huh? Was to kill Kokichi in the virtual world, but make it look like he had died in the real world. In complete darkness, we each stood in one corner and sang the Caged Child song. To cut the cross pieces, they needed a saw. I imagine they got one from the warehouse, but Kokichi wouldn't do it himself. He used a patsy to be the culprit in this case. No, it happened a little differently. Both Kaito and Kokichi shot the crossbow, but we know that Kokichi was trying to mislead Monokuma. So what about the video? To put it simply, both people operated the press and camera at different times. Then, while everyone was distracted, you discreetly dropped the sickle under the floor. In the virtual world, if your avatar takes fatal damage, your real body dies of shock. Knowing that, I believe Maki is correct. Mew was strangled to death. Exactly. To put it another way, the river isn't cut off at the wall near the chapel. This is the truth you've forgotten, Gonta Gokuhara, the ultimate entomologist. An impossible trick. Unless the victim and culprit agreed to cooperate beforehand. Yes, exactly. The edges of the virtual world are linked together in a continuous loop. Even if we can't positively identify the body, we would still believe Kaito was the victim. The culprit took the floorboard they loosened and struck the unsuspecting Angie in the head. But her explanation was intentionally false. She wanted us to misunderstand the world. After she was struck in the empty room, she was carried to the art research lab and then killed. The wall extends parallel to the y-axis, but we found 2 such walls in the virtual world. Actually, there wasn't a wall on the y-axis at all, and the x-axis was set to loop. Fortunately for her, she had an electro hammer to get around the barrier, in a way. Ruling those out, the only other explanation is that the sound was Mew colliding with a wall. If Mew touched him, he'd freeze in place. Kokichi wasn't capable of strangling her. A difficult trick, but remember that the lock was so loose it moved at the slightest touch. Monokuma hasn't said a word about that. It's possible that Kokichi is just lying to us. I don't think that video showed the murder at all. All we saw was a living body. It went through the wall that only objects can pass through before crashing into the chapel. I have evidence that points to Kokichi being the victim. I found this in the hangar. Tenko, at the culprit's request, bowed her head until it was touching the stone. Because of this, a connection error occurred between the culprit's brain and their avatar. Because I can't believe that someone so kind could commit murder. At that point, the culprit had not finished the setup and was just cutting cross pieces. Yes, the reason Mew modified the simulator and brought us to the virtual world. With a body on top of it, the lattice became a makeshift sled and flew off the roof. The bloodstain found under the floor. Maki and I found it during the investigation. She was making him look the most suspicious. But her plan didn't go smoothly. After the body was swapped, the press and the camera were started simultaneously. So Maki, please tell us the truth. The truth that only you know. If you show the moment of Kaito's death, of course it would lead us to believe he died. Yes. The Exisouls weren't protecting Monokuma. They were. The culprit was operating the camera and the hydraulic press, while the victim lay inside. It means the culprit knew about the seesaw, so the same person killed Tenko and Angie. Then, to further confuse us, the culprit attempted to make a locked room mystery. The idea is, you pass through the wall by the chapel and come out by the mansion. He swallowed his pride with the antidote and agreed to participate in Kokichi's plan. She was going to the hangar to kill Kokichi and save the culprit trapped in the bathroom. The poison kills slowly. It seems as if Maki wanted Kokichi to confess before he died. First, they used rope from the warehouse and hung 4 effigies upside down. He really saved us. Without that, we wouldn't know what changes were made to the circle. To log in, you have to plug the memory and consciousness cords into the device. Don't think of it as 2 separate walls, but a single wall parallel to the y-axis. Kyo, I want you to confess. No, I will force you to confess. Next, Kokichi and I placed the iron cage over Tenko, in the middle of the magic circle. The strychnine poison slowly circulated through their systems and would soon kill them both. It was late last night. The culprit was in the empty room on the 4th floor. No, wait! There was something that could have been used to help slide Mew's body, but we need to be absolutely sure. If we don't positively identify the victim, if the objective were to create a crime that would stump Monokuma, the Exisouls, to operate the press and the camera at the same time, it would have to be near the switch. However, I don't think the culprit actually tied it down there. They just hung it. The culprit heaved the lattice over the railing and forcefully slid it down the roof slope. While investigating the Exisouls, I noticed that they have no locks on their cockpit hatches. I hate to admit it, but Kokichi is right. We have no way to prove the cause of death. However, when the culprit was working on the middle room, the unexpected happened. We didn't realize it at the time, but that was a deliberate decision by the culprit. The hammer, cell phone, and lattice were there, but they were too small to make that noise. That means finding the truth is not enough. We need to grasp the hope just beyond it. The only two people involved in the swap were the victim and the culprit. Once complete, the door was locked, but the duct tape was left behind. Right after we started singing, the culprit began making their way toward Tenko. But now we know for certain, and we know the culprit drew the magic circle. If her body experienced pain, she must have been in pain in the virtual world as well. I hate it. I hate it so much. But it's the truth. Ironically, the final step of the murder was unwittingly carried out by us. But it seems as though right after logging in, when Kokichi and the culprit went outside, he incorporated this unforeseen event into his plan to help him win the killing game. The wall stretches along the y-axis, but we found two such walls in the virtual world. Don't think of it as two separate walls, but a single wall down the y-axis. Kaito, I know how you feel. I know because we all feel it. Thank you for telling us everything, Maki. Thanks to you, I finally understand. Maybe Kaito didn't die by poison. It could be something else entirely. I don't think Himiko used the crossbow. More accurately, she couldn't use it. Then, while the camera was off, they switched the body under the hydraulic press. Maki could only see so much through the window. She didn't confirm Kokichi drank it. She had modified the killing game simulator so she could accomplish a specific goal. I think Kokichi has some sort of plan. He's trying to trap us. Once released, the effigy began spinning, and the gold leaf katana with it. That's a lot of specific information. Stuff you wouldn't know if you hadn't been there. But the culprit had accidentally plugged their cords into the wrong ports. The small hole on the sleeve of Kaito's coat is the key to his cause of death. She knew exosols could bypass the barrier, so she got inside one. That cell phone worked the same way as the phone in the salon. It logs users in and out. It's unclear whether Mew added the wall by the mansion or the wall near the chapel. Exactly. That has to be some kind of clue to the mystery of the virtual world. Ever since Gonta logged out, he's been saying, I don't know, I don't understand. Mew's wall hid the fact that the mansion and chapel were actually right next to each other. But the evidence shows that Kaito must be the one who died. True, and I can't forgive him. But we still need to stay calm, be rational. The tip was covered in a lethal poison from my lab called Strike 9 poison. Have you forgotten? The bottle we found at the scene was an antidote, not a poison. Kokichi, I was the only one who went and got the signboard. Only I saw them. After Mew confirmed we were all logged in, she took out the bottle of poison. Kokichi was waiting on the roof with the culprit and the toilet paper used to kill Mew. Like I told you, this isn't over. There's still a hidden truth to find. Yes, Mew definitely wanted to be able to go through that wall for a reason. When you're convinced, you just let me know, all right? Let's end this together. As a result, the culprit would forget everything that happened in the virtual world. Then, she spoke a name into the phone, which forced that person to log out. Anyway, this third party commandeered an exosol and infiltrated the hangar. The electro hammer needs to be recharged for 24 hours after it runs out of battery. If the safety was off, the press could have crushed Kaito while he was still alive. It would have been quite difficult to do in total darkness, but our culprit had a guide. Prior to this case, Monokuma always knew the specific details of each crime, correct? And that leads me to the conclusion that Maki must be the third party. Actually, there's something bothering me about the clothes found in the hydraulic press. So if you wanted to enter the hangar, all you had to do was pilot an exosol. There is a way to disable the alarm system. An electro bomb would take it down. When she reached the hangar, she handed the case to someone through the bathroom window. But the culprit didn't intend to kill Kokichi. They just wanted to disable him. Tenko volunteered to be the medium, but she never imagined it would get her killed. Wait, there's no point in arguing about that now. The truth will come out eventually. It's all part of one big loop. The upstream part of the river is connected to it. The walls by the chapel and the mansion aren't separate. They're the same wall. Mew's avatar was strangled to death, and the shock killed Mew in the real world. It's too soon to decide anything for certain. We don't even know if Kaito was the victim. That's it! The exosol! The exisal could be used to enter the hangar. Knowing that, the electro hammer I found could only have belonged to Maki. The culprit stopped the video camera at the same time as the hydraulic press. You saw him drink it right in front of you, but you couldn't confirm he actually did it. To keep Maki from becoming the blackened, the culprit used their body to shield Kokichi. But our culprit had another plan: to commit a murder in the darkness. If a murder occurred when it was impossible to cross the river, she wouldn't be implicated. This was only possible because objects in the virtual world are unbreakable. After Angie was knocked unconscious in the empty room, she was killed in her lab. As the ultimate assassin, you would be able to jump into that exisal, correct? That hammer was used last afternoon, so it couldn't have been used this morning. No, I didn't say that. I was just saying it's dangerous to trust Kokichi. Could it be that the additional arrows were brought in by a third party? If you don't tell us the truth right now, you'll be an accomplice to Kokichi's lies. To get the trick we just described to work, the camera had to be set up precisely. Locked in the bathroom, the culprit had asked Himiko to bring them a certain weapon. Kyo's earlier confession is further evidence that the floorboard was used. There was only a wall on the x-axis, and the y-axis was set to loop. Even if someone came up, I don't believe she would change the target of her plan. Kokichi was operating the hydraulic press and camera. At first, the arrow hit Kokichi right in the back. And it was no normal arrow. Kokichi was tight-lipped about the motive, so I don't know why the culprit agreed. Once the culprit was safely on the ground, they pulled at the toilet paper to retrieve it. My detective work has led me to the conclusion that Kaito is the culprit. Kaito had no choice. He had to cooperate after Kokichi saved his life. Thinking fast, Kokichi closed the shutter so that Maki could not re-enter the hangar. That evidence was the magic circle that the culprit used to navigate in the dark. They would have returned it to the bathroom, but they ran into us as we were leaving the mansion. Then the person who turned the camera and the press back on was the original victim. Maybe. Unless you were hiding your true potential, in which case, Kibo is onto something. Isn't it weird that the hydraulic press stopped for a second? While Kokichi was checking up on them, the culprit ambushed him with a crossbow. That was Kokichi's true objective. It's why he claimed to be the mastermind. So, we all plugged those cords into our helmets and entered the virtual world. Remember that when we found Kokichi's clothes, there were holes in the back and sleeve. Discovering the crushed body would have been enough. No need to show us the film. After enough turns, the culprit let go and headed for the rear door. If Miu did lock it, she would have done it when she called Kokichi to the roof. I believe it's possible that Gonta doesn't remember what happened in the virtual world. Gonta, I'm going to look back at the whole case one more time, okay? But she also showed signs of blunt force trauma, and I think I know why. That's right. Kyo originally planned to kill someone with the seesaw trick. It means that Miu couldn't have been killed with poison. That's what I'm trying to say. You think so? Maybe Kaito's charisma is starting to rub off on me. But Maki leaped out of the cockpit and shot Kokichi with her crossbow. This would divert suspicion away from the culprit and whoever picked a room. They didn't notice the duct tape had peeled off and was under Angie's body. We might never have solved this case because the culprit doesn't remember. You said that you went to the hangar empty-handed, but that's a lie, isn't it? No, I think it is. You would need to be quick, agile, athletic, and stealthy. But Maki, you don't know for certain that Kokichi drank the antidote. That position was instrumental in making sure the murder went as planned. But after the culprit was given the antidote, Kokichi immediately snatched it. There's also the bloodstain under the floor to consider. For that to be there, and while we were all focused on the body, the culprit picked up the sickle. Actually, if we know that the world is a loop, we can explain that as well. She knew that Kokichi would come up later. Locking the door would be suspicious. Kaito, Kokichi, Gonta, Tsumugi, and I investigated the mansion. The only way to stop the hydraulic press is the force stop button. To mislead us. She was planning a crime after all. They were trying to make sure that Monokuma wouldn't go near the crime scene. Around that time, the culprit and Kokichi began their confrontation. Maki remembered that there was an antidote in my lab and immediately ran off to get it. There was evidence left at the scene. The bloody tape under Angie's body. I believe that while Keel was setting up the seesaw, he was holding the board. Actually, maybe it wasn't possible for Kokichi to strangle Mew. That was the crashing sound that Kibo heard in the chapel, and we heard in the mansion. I've got it! Disabling the alarm system wasn't the real objective. The hydraulic press. Kaito could have been killed by the press after all. It would be whoever was operating the hydraulic press. Kokichi. I don't want to believe it either. But it's the only way any of this makes sense. But now that Angie had seen it, the culprit couldn't use the seesaw trick. The culprit had planned the murder so that we would unintentionally destroy some evidence. It's possible that this had an effect on their avatar's personality as well. Kokichi was going to use Mew's plan against her and plotted her murder. Himiko, the different body you mentioned, what are you talking about? She used her electrohammer to disable an exisal and climbed inside. While they were covering the cage with a cloth, they secretly placed the sickle. There was something the culprit could have used to slide the body. The signboard! After being convinced by Mew, we all logged in to the virtual world. Once she made sure we were across, she dropped the bridge into the river. While Mew was distracted by Kokichi, the culprit snuck up from behind. After the murder, Kokichi left the cleanup to the culprit and left the roof. There was a swipe pattern bloodstain in the hangar, suggesting a body was dragged. Kaito and I learned how to assemble the crossbow from Maki, so we could have done it. There was a reason the camera was set up there, but also a reason for the height. When the press was stopped, you couldn't really see who was inside it, correct? I will show you the truth. The truth you can't deny. But while he was making preparations in the empty room, Angie walked in. Kokichi, enough! I wasn't arguing with him. I was just explaining. We aren't sure why yet, but once we solve the mystery of the virtual world, if we can determine why, we will also determine what Mew was up to. That's why we continued with the original plan to find the secret of the outside world. Maki, you're the third party we're looking for, aren't you? Then they picked up her unconscious body and carried her to a research lab. The culprit used the weight of the statue to keep the murder weapon in place. If Kaito had been crushed by the press, the sleeve shouldn't have been empty. She also knows how to assemble the crossbow and could have returned it to her lab later. The very person Mew was trying to kill. Kokichi. Remember that the only reason we think that is because Kokichi told us commit a crime that was so confusing, even Monokuma would be tricked. Kokichi just pretended to drink the antidote. He didn't actually drink it. Angie walked into that room and saw the culprit making their preparations. They then stabbed Angie in the back of the neck, finally killing her. The culprit stuck the katana into Kaede's effigy near the rear entrance. However, the culprit didn't know that Kibo had taken a picture. In that case, it's fair to say that the cause of death was actually the simulator. At the time, we thought nothing of it. It was just another one of Mew's pranks. Bloodstains were also found inside the bathroom. That can't be coincidence. That can't be true. I'm the only person Monokuma told about those locks. Because Kaito knows how to assemble the crossbow, he certainly could have used it. However, I don't think Kokichi would be able to sway Kaito easily. However, the hangar had an electric barrier preventing her from entering. While she was unconscious, the culprit hurried to tie up this loose end, glided through the wall only objects could pass through, and hit the chapel. Maybe it wasn't possible to get in, but you could have shot through the window. No, actually. I'm trying to find a way to prove that you couldn't be the intruder. Disabled the exisal with an electrohammer and infiltrated the hangar. There must be a reason you went out of your way to show us the body being crushed. And Mew had changed her avatar settings from human to object. But if the culprit shot the video, why would they go out of their way to show it? No, if they were tired of it, they wouldn't have put all that effort into the video. Even without going in the hangar, it was possible to land a shot with a crossbow. But if I'm right, it means that we've been thinking about this all wrong. The electrobomb would prevent any cameras from sending video wirelessly. Does that sound like a fair game? Would you say this class trial is fair? Finally, 4 of us placed the wooden statue on top of the cage. Around that time, Mew was headed for the wall that was on the side of the chapel. If you remember what was on that label, you'll see that your argument is flawed. and used the toilet paper from the mansion's bathroom to strangle Mew. Kaito said he only needed one arrow. Clearly, he didn't want to fight. I thought you were hiding something from me, Maki. I was confirming my suspicion. So, the person inside that exisal isn't Kokichi. When she had had enough, Maki tried to finish him off with another poisoned arrow. To use the floorboard as a seesaw, they had to cut the crosspiece supporting it. Carrying the supplies they needed, the culprit returned to the ultimate art lab. She used a secret method to move from the chapel to the mansion for the murder. I won't let you, Kokichi. If anyone is going to get him to confess, if you stop something else at the same time you stop the hydraulic press, that doesn't make sense. Not even Kokichi would do something that stupid. Then the culprit who started the hydraulic press again and crushed Kokichi, Tenko was stabbed in the back of the neck by the sickle on the top of the cage. We do know that that wall was set so that only objects could pass through it. She passed through the wall and headed for the mansion to kill Kokichi. The fact that these were flushed down the toilet implies that they are evidence of a crime. It would have taken down the hangar's alarm system and the Exisal's remote control. Knowing that, I can't imagine that anyone else would have asked Himiko. I don't want to believe it. In a way, I still can't. If they were protecting him like bodyguards, they wouldn't have been facing him. Kokichi said that he filmed that video to prove he was not the victim. It's no delusion. Angie's 2 external wounds tell the story. She also changed her avatar settings from human to object. But if that wall happened to be the one that Mew set to allow objects through, at the chapel, Mew told Maki that she was going to look around outside. This was to trick us into thinking that the river separated the mansion and chapel. The Strike 9 poison, correct? But why pick that particular poison? She needed some fire for the ritual, and had gone to the room for a candle. The handle of the katana then hit the sliding lock, locking the door. Then, this morning, we opened up the room and discovered Angie's body, then lifted up their foot and stomped down hard on the floorboard. We followed the culprit's directions and removed the equipment used for the seance. Just because Gonta was at the mansion doesn't mean that he isn't the culprit. Knowing how Kaito wore his coat, that's awfully strange, isn't it? No, I don't think Kokichi would use an electrobomb for that purpose. Maki, I think I missed something very important here. The apparent victim we saw in the video was Kaito, which means we all saw Mew drop the sign and watch the river carry it downstream. Yes, but first we need to be clear where the loop starts. All the culprit needed was a way to get from the roof to outside the mansion. We have a choice to make. We don't have to follow where the evidence leads. So she went around to the hangar bathroom and passed the antidote through the window. Perhaps the culprit noticed it, but by that point, it was too late. After committing the crime, the culprit followed the salt back to their corner. The unnatural way the sign was carried is possibly related to the wall. You put Mew's body on top and use it as a kind of sled. I know how important it is to believe, but as the ultimate detective, we can't keep going back and forth like this. We need to discuss this. When we logged into the virtual world, an avatar user error occurred. This was done to make it look like Kokichi was killed by poison when we returned. She plans to sacrifice all of our lives in order to kill Kokichi. I believe that Kokichi knew this and just pretended to drink the antidote. The culprit was going to use the crossbow to challenge Kokichi to a fight. The plan was to make the same preparations for all 3 empty rooms. When the song finished, the soul of the dead was supposed to enter the medium. The binoculars on the rooftop. The toilet paper could have been tied there. But in that case, they would have had to tug on it in order to take it down. She also explained the map of the virtual world in the mansion's entrance hall. That doesn't sound like the kind of game Kokichi or Monokuma or Junko would play. I still don't believe it. Is that video real? Eventually, we met up with Kokichi and crossed the river to the chapel. In a panic, the culprit tossed the toilet paper somewhere nearby. It should have been possible to get into the cockpit, providing they could reach it, and that might be exactly the mistake Kokichi was going for. But in that desperate situation, Kokichi thought up a clever lie. To perform the seance, the culprit claimed they needed something for Tenko. The culprit then volunteered to drape the white cloth over the iron cage. Of course, I'm sorry, I was just misremembering. Kokichi, if what you're saying is true, why did you plan it this way? But we all know Kokichi loves to lie. and that he's a remnant of despair. Kaito told me that only I would be able to grasp what lies beyond the truth. There was a small patch of dried blood on the underside of the floorboard, but the culprit wasn't finished. They wanted one more murder. That's not it, Kokichi! I'm just trying to make sure that everyone Last night, Kibo saw Himiko from the window of his lab. Miu modified the program to add a special wall to the world. Now wait just a second. It's not actually impossible at all. I think that Gonta messed up something with the cords, causing the error. Something's not right. We need to get a better feel for this situation. Kokichi reeled from the arrow, and the culprit jumped on him immediately. No, I'm positive toilet paper was used instead of rope. We found it later, but there was something unnatural about it. He probably returned to the salon as soon as he could to avoid drawing suspicion. He didn't want Kokichi to have the chance to summon an exisal with the remote. But even with poison in his veins, Kokichi continued to spin his lies. During the investigation, we found toilet paper outside the mansion. Miu headed toward the mansion, but she was seen by Tsumugi on the way. Because we were at the mansion, they couldn't take the stairs or they'd be seen. Yes, that's it! The virtual world is a loop. But during the investigation, I saw that it was gone. You started saying, "I don't know anything," after leaving the virtual world. It could have been edited to make it look like Kaito was killed by the press. Maki said she used a knife to try to break the control panel and enter the hangar. Any other person might have just given up, but not our culprit. The culprit did not want to give up on their plan and had to improvise. Just before the murder occurred, I went to the salon to check on you. I can't say for sure he's the culprit. I'm saying we can't rule it out. You see, the wall was a special wall that Miu had added herself. Kokichi probably used the electrobomb to scramble whatever that was. Yes. Remember what Monokuma said earlier in the investigation? She didn't want to share that information because it would have linked her to the murder and dropped it under the floor through the hole in the corner of the room. She had plenty of time to do it. Here, take a look at this. The culprit laid her on top of that, then used it as a sled on the roof. But Gonta is such a gentle soul. Why would he agree to this? Miu had us split up to try to find some secret of the outside world, while Maki, Himiko, Kibo, and Miu investigated the chapel. Yes, and look here. There are bloodstains on the sleeve. Now please, tell us the truth. How do you know about the hatch? Yes, that's it! So that's what Kokichi's real objective was. Before we determine that for sure, I want to make one thing clear. There's no doubt about it. Kokichi isn't the mastermind. But if that were the only objective, there would be no need to film it. To do that, they manipulated us into performing this seance. Right, and the virtual world is connected to our 5 senses. That's what I thought at first. But I think it's because of the error. That's it, Kibo! There was a hidden route only Miu could use. After we had all logged in, Miu explained the world to us. She wants to kill the mastermind, a remnant of despair. I can't say for certain, but he must be keeping watch somehow. That's just Kaito's character. And Kokichi knew that. After the preparations were complete, we began the seance. Only Kaito or Kokichi would have asked for a crossbow to be brought to the hangar. Let's discuss the video of Kaito being crushed by the hydraulic press. Oh, I see. It wasn't just the press that stopped. But because they were in a hurry, they made a crucial oversight. Without that evidence, we may never have figured out the culprit's trick. Before we get to that, we need to discover the truth behind Miu's death. However, one of us was able to see through her scheme. The video camera must have been set up somewhere around here. If they really wanted to kill him, they would have shot him in his vitals while they were fighting. Something happened that caught them both off guard, so he decided to kill her in order to keep her from talking. The room was sealed. There was no way for them to get back inside. Of the 3 empty rooms, the middle one was chosen for the seance. They found the floorboard that had its crosspiece cut off the night before. It's not just the river. The walls themselves are connected. But that doesn't make sense, because there's an alarm system on the shutter. She was carrying a black case and heading to the exisal hangar. When Maki returned with the antidote, she couldn't get back inside the hangar. Miu wasn't killed by poison, and the warning on the label proves it. No, there was something that the toilet paper could have been tied to. As the final step, the culprit had to then get off the roof. That leads me to believe there's something he's not telling us about that video. You know about the locks because you've been inside one of the cockpits. Kokichi was definitely not expecting an exosaw to interrupt them. It was wrapped around her head to stop the bleeding while she was being carried. Do you remember that Maki said she would do anything to defeat Kokichi? If the electro bomb was used while Maki was trying to deliver the antidote, there were only 2 people in the hangar at the time the bodies were swapped. But the blood from Tenko's body hadn't even begun to dry yet. If that were true, she wouldn't have missed something like a hammer. I wasn't looking hard enough. What do you mean? I'm convinced there's only one person who could have killed Angie. That's right. It says that Mew was the last of us to log in. Maki must have wanted to hear it directly from Kokichi himself. Blood that spattered there when the culprit struck Angie with the board. Angie might not have concluded that it was tied to some kind of murder plan. She wanted it to appear as if Kokichi was killed in the real world. Is the 2 cords on the helmet used to log into the virtual world? By having Kaito search the roof and then forcing him to log out, I can think of at least one person who fits that description. Wait, not all of the electro hammers were being charged. The floorboard must not have been in place at the time of the attack. The culprit also would have had the opportunity to attempt it many times. Who else would agree to die just to execute their plan? The shutter of the hangar opened, and an exosol stepped inside. Mew used a method only she could use to log Kaito out manually. The sign should have traveled downriver toward the chapel, correct? But that was just his right arm. He wore his left sleeve normally. The safety function would make it impossible to kill Kaito with the press. I was invited by Kokichi to take Kibo's place in the seance. The culprit felt for the salt and used it to guide them along. Because in the virtual world, objects are unbreakable. But I'm wondering how she got from the chapel to the mansion's roof. It should have hit the wall on the far side of the chapel and stopped there. The sign should have stopped at the wall on the other side of the chapel. Yes, it's true. Kaito never put his arm through his sleeve. There was a used electro hammer near Monokuma and the exosols. He was trying to commit a murder that Monokuma couldn't figure out either. The swapping trick required the victim and culprit to work together. That's it. Angie went to that room to get a candle. Wait a minute, Kokichi. Mew couldn't have been killed with poison. There's no doubt about that. That's why she dropped the bridge. You wanted to plan the murder yourself, but have someone else carry it out? Let's go over the trick that Kokichi and the culprit created together. They used the lines of the magic circle drawn with salt. Right. Well, for now, forget the antidote. Drinking the poison would result in subconjunctival hemorrhaging. I got it! I know why Mew only set up one wall. When you were explaining that the door to the roof was locked, you said, this wall was programmed so that only objects could pass through. I noticed something about the poison in my lab during the investigation. Well, Kyo's confession derailed our conversation a bit. Kyo hit Angie with the same floorboard used in the seesaw trick, and we definitely heard it. We heard Kibo's voice as well. It might have to do with a wall that only objects can pass through. The culprit used the sloped roof as a slide for Mew's avatar. It's Gonta. I think the sound came from Mew's avatar hitting the chapel wall. Because the evidence doesn't support the claim that Kaito is still alive. It also would have disabled the hydraulic press's safety function. It's pretty strange to present evidence that condemns you after all. Kaito's cooperation was essential to Kokichi's plan. But this time, Maki was the one caught by surprise. Himiko, when exactly did Kaito ask you to do this? But that shouldn't have been a problem for any of the exosols, right? No, that can't be! The person in that exosol is... It would be a mistake to vote before we've completely solved Angie's murder. The weapon that was used to knock Angie unconscious in the empty room. She was killed right before our eyes, and we didn't even see it. And finally, the culprit searched outside the mansion. I believe the weapon was the crossbow found in the bathroom. Thus, Kokichi's final lie was set into motion. That bloodstain wasn't Tenko's. It was Angie's. They wrapped duct tape around Angie's injury to stop the bleeding. Mew's cause of death was the killing game simulator itself. That single wall divides the entire virtual world. When I first looked in the storage room on the roof, I saw the lattice there, and placed Mew's body on top along with the hammer and the cell phone. He said you were headed toward the hangar carrying a large black bag. The crossbow is not the murder weapon? What do you mean? Maybe we do have the truth now. But this isn't over. Kokichi wasn't just trying to commit a murder that we couldn't figure out, but we still have to go over one of the clues found at Tenko's crime scene. Also, the bloodstain was already dry when we found it. I think she was still alive after the attack in the empty room. Well, what we know so far is that I did notice the lattice in the storage room when I first looked. No, Kokichi might not be controlling Monokuma at all. I imagine this was all part of Kokichi's plan to confuse us. That's where my detective work leads us. It all fits. There were actually 2 there, but I only brought 1. If we're going to survive, I have to find the truth. Now hold on. Jumping to conclusions here is dangerous. Mew must have gone to the mansion. We have a witness. Wait, Himiko. What do you mean 1 arrow? The Electro Bomb wouldn't have just taken down the alarm system. Monokuma? Do you not know who the culprit is either? That's why Tsumugi and I were able to hear the crash from the mansion. She chased after our group while we were heading toward the mansion. No, we do. I have a plausible theory for the murder. The bloodstain goes from the bathroom all the way to the press, but I don't believe someone without the proper training could have assembled it. No, I won't. Because you're not Kaito. We mentioned it before, but Mew dropped the sign in the river. It appeared as though the sign was carried against the river's current, so they used the toilet paper again to escape from the rooftop. Why was only the sleeve sticking out of the hydraulic press? We couldn't get in because of the alarm system and the electric barrier. They were planning to cut the crosspieces in all 3 rooms. I'm guessing that the toilet paper was used to strangle her. Then the secret of the outside world is the motive, right? The culprit comes in, confesses to the crime, and the trial ends? When I saw them last afternoon, there were 4 exisals. Because when Kibo and I first investigated that hydraulic press, that would indicate that Kokichi suffered an external injury, correct? Wait, not all of the electro hammers were being charged. It wouldn't matter where the arrow hit, if it were poisoned. After Maki left, he gave the antidote to Kaito. But that's not the only evidence that she was hit with that floorboard. They needed to set up the murder weapon that was used to kill Tenko. We found it near the mansion, nestled in some rocks. The map loading point was where the virtual world looped. That's right! That's how the virtual world works! Not yet. There's still another mystery to solve. It was beneath the floorboard that the culprit stomped on, finished the ritual, and had us light the candles. Meanwhile, Mew was the last to log in. That must mean that he was using some way of monitoring us. So the remote that Kokichi was using was made by Mew? According to the Necronomicon, to resurrect the dead, the culprit was preparing the seance murder they had planned. The sign that we were using as a bridge was odd to me. I waited there for a while. You never showed up. They were already working together to execute the murder. Maki took 2 arrows and her own crossbow from her lab. Some of the poisons in my lab were far more lethal. But consider how many elements of this case would be cleared up. Did Gonta get into an accident in the virtual world? And the left sleeve was the one we found outside the press, which means they were working together. I verified this myself when I spoke Kaito's name into it. That's not it at all. I just want the truth. Unless he comes out of the exisal, we can't confirm that. Kokichi claims it was Mew who chose the meeting place, but we know for certain that 3 arrows were recovered from the scene. That same person must have brought the other 2 arrows with them. I see. Kokichi's own deductions. That someone is the culprit of this case. Kokichi, you're lying right now, aren't you? When she entered the mansion, she pulled out her cell phone. That single wall divides the entire virtual world. If they switched places while the press and the camera were stopped, some time passed, and Maki made her way to the hangar. It was Mew who planted the poison on Kokichi's chair. There have been a lot of strange occurrences in the virtual world, but we have to face the truth. The same toilet paper that was used as the murder weapon. She set up a wall that only she could pass through. The culprit's left arm was struck by a poison arrow. Gonta, this is the truth we've reached. The same kind of hole that was found in Kaito's coat. It was to deactivate the safety function on the press. Perhaps. I don't think Mew did it. Tsumugi and I are witnesses to each other's alibis. That's what the culprit used to get from the roof to the ground. Not at the scene of the crime, nor on Mew's body. There was just a little less in the bottle than before. There's a strong possibility that all of this was done Only Kokichi could think of something so nefarious. You're wrong. There is evidence. And pushed Tenko's body up toward the ceiling of the cage. But the loading point was actually at the edges. How do you know there's an electronic lock on the Exosoul's hatch? They would have been lethal, no matter where they connected. It sounds bizarre, but perhaps that was the whole point. It's you, Kyo! You killed Angie! A small stone that Himiko had brought from the courtyard. Meaning that Mew must have left it on purpose. No. Angie was going to use it for the ritual. Mew's body showed severe trauma and signs of a struggle. In which case, it could only be Maki. Splitting us up was also part of Mew's plan. But that doesn't necessarily mean that he's the mastermind. Yeah, Kokichi isn't the mastermind, so he pulled out his remote in an attempt to control the Exosol. Or should I say, help him defeat Monokuma. The fatal wound was a cut to the back of her neck from the katana. Let's focus on exactly what was written on that warning label. You were the one who told us about the warnings on the label. In other words, your eyes would be bloodshot. She was killed after she was carried to her lab and spun the effigy around to twist up the rope. We went to the mansion and split up to look for clues. So you didn't have the antidote with you at the time. A disassembled crossbow from Maki's lab. And the other was the key to locking the room. And it's much too early to decide that Kaito is the culprit. Fine. I'll expose your lie right now. I know we can't solve this case with belief alone. She didn't tell us that there was another way to log out. And remember that Kaito was confined to the bathroom. You wouldn't think that someone would plan their own murder. That's why the culprit aimed for Kokichi's right arm, and then used the doubled-up toilet paper to climb down. Because we need to get to the truth of Kaito's death. Maki's not wrong. There is a way it could be done. That weapon tells us the whole story, Kyo. The sled picked up speed, flew off the roof. Maki is trying to kill Kokichi in this class trial, because there's something wrong with the testimony you've given us. So maybe there's another possibility. There were mysterious circumstances surrounding her death. Do you remember the lattice that was found by Mew's avatar? The cause of the error that affected Gonta's avatar? There would have been no need for this class trial in the first place. No, it's too soon. There are still mysteries. I don't think he'd be able to produce a body to switch out. I believe it might even have something to do with Angie's murder. The truth is, Gonta could have murdered Mew. So the fact that we found an empty sleeve should getting in your way. Maki, what are you... It was the cell phone found by Mew's avatar. Then why are you hiding in there? Show yourself! Well then, that's strange, because... What is it, Kaito? We thought the loading point was in the middle of the map. They hung the toilet paper from the binoculars on the roof. The other person will never show themselves, right? Which is why it couldn't have been used to kill Kaito. They were for the third party to use themselves. There's only one reason that anyone would want to do that. Kokichi, there's something I need to know. No, none of us were in charge of the entrance hall and took out the katana they brought from their own lab. And when the culprit reached the center of the circle, is this fun for you? Messing with the trial? They would have been scanning the area, watching us. So Monokuma must have been talking about Maki. That's right. It wasn't part of the plan. To overwhelm the room with an occult atmosphere, Mew was going to meet up with someone in the virtual world. The culprit must have used the other one as a sled. I think that's the result of some kind of memory error. Do you mean you remembered something? If the two of them switched while the press was stopped, that was the hidden route she prepared for herself. The crossbow inside this case was disassembled. It was there before we started the seance. The same roof where Kokichi and Mew were going to meet. The culprit then took the lattice from the storage room, so it just looks like the press stopped for a moment. It's okay, Gonta. Don't worry about it. There were 3 arrows in the bathroom, remember? And all 3 arrows had blood on them. If that poison had been applied to those arrows. Yeah, when I went to see him yesterday. Kaito, I believe in you. That was made clear in the program's text file. Of course! The safety function. But this morning, there were only 3. Drinking the antidote was part of his lie. But he couldn't get into Angie's research lab. I think one of the murders was an accident. The floorboard lifted up like a seesaw. It's not like Mew could have been killed by an antidote. So the other 2 arrows weren't for Kaito. You were trying to commit an unsolvable murder. The wall wasn't the only thing that Mew changed. The video does not show Kaito's murder. No, hold on a second. This isn't right. No, you don't understand. I'm not trying to... He used the electro bomb for a different purpose. Maki, just to confirm, the bloodstain wasn't from Tenko's murder. But Kokichi, you're misremembering as well. You mean the loud sound that you and I heard in the kitchen? What if both ends of the river were connected? Do you remember the first time I went to get the signboard? Now we just have to figure out what happened after. There's another hidden truth within your testimony. Yeah, I'm sure we'll figure something out. There should have been an arm inside the sleeve as well. What if there was another signboard? Kaito had logged out ahead of us. What? Not possible. So that's what you were trying to do. Let's look back at the first murder. I can't believe I overlooked this. Angie's murder was an accident. I'll go over everything one more time. Without that one little mistake, even more reason to give us the answer. For once, I wish that we were. There was a window in the bathroom of the hangar. This is the bag you were carrying, isn't it? Kaito protected Kokichi? They were watching Monokuma. Yes, I'm positive of that. Yes, I did. And I'm sorry. Locked the front door from inside. She was trying to kill Kokichi. It was that testimony that bothered me. That's why we didn't find it anywhere else. It was Kaito who was on the roof at the time. Kokichi might not be the mastermind. Kaito's clothes had arrow holes too, and used it like a rope to climb down. They couldn't get to the crime scene, could they? The toilet paper we found outside the mansion. And there's still the mystery of Tenko's murder. We'll know why she wanted to pass through the wall. But later, you said. Yes, I think so. We don't have the whole truth. Kaito's cause of death. Remember what Kokichi said. It has to be Kaito. There were two reasons for this. Is that really you, Kokichi? You versus Monokuma? So why do you think I'm lying? And the river was wide there. No, I'm not trying to... Kaito is already dead. The toilet paper wouldn't tear. You mean the lattice, right? So we can't just give up here. Huh? What's wrong? The case began last night. Kokichi searched the salon. Maki is still fighting. So there's nothing we can do about it? To make Kaito cooperate. Mew was the one who brought the hammer. Was it Kaito? No, that's wrong. I know because I found one. But that's not where we found it. Tsumugi searched the dining room. We need to make sense of those first. It was outside the mansion. And placed it on Kokichi's seat. And discovered Tenko's body. Stop! Delusion? Gonta. Kaito! It's me, the victim. What do you mean? I understand. An exisal? This isn't over. Kaito. Are you positive? Kaito. Kaito? But in the video. But you weren't there. Kaito, please. But Kibo saw you. Well, wait just a minute. But... Remember what she told us? I searched the kitchen. Nothing to do with it. You're lying, Maki. What? Me? You added a motive? That's not how this goes. Must be Kaito. Kaito searched the roof when Angie walked in. No, we can't vote yet. This case isn't over. You're welcome. Yes, I'm positive. Why did you lie just now? What? Huh? What? Huh? Oh? What? Huh? Huh? Okay. A hit. Maki. Himiko, what do you mean? You what? Damn it. This is it for me. Danganronpa V3. I reject that hope. Fiction has the power to change reality. I won't let you use our lives for entertainment. It's not pointless. We're gonna use our lives to change the world. Together, we're gonna end Danganronpa.
This is our answer. This is our answer. This is our answer. This is our answer.
This is our answer.
Kokichi drank down all of the antidote while the culprit and Maki watched in horror. Maki must have been panicking, thinking the only antidote was now gone. She believed that the culprit was going to die from her own poisoned arrow, but it was all another one of Kokichi's lies. He had only pretended to drink the antidote. Maki tried desperately to break into the hangar, even slashing the control panel, but she couldn't get the shutter to open again. Defeated, she had no choice but to leave. After Maki had left, Kokichi took out another weapon, an electrobomb, capable of disabling communication devices for hours. Kokichi's plan was to use an electrobomb to knock out Monokuma's surveillance cameras. That was why he commissioned Mew to make the bombs in the first place. After detonating an electrobomb, Kokichi coerced the culprit into drinking the antidote. In exchange for the antidote, Kokichi asked the culprit to cooperate with his plan. Kokichi needed to work with the culprit to execute his final lie. Under normal circumstances, the culprit would never have agreed to such a plan, but because the culprit owed him for saving their life, they agreed to Kokichi's request. Request is a generous term. It was more like blackmail. In any case, the two were now working together as accomplices in an insane plan. That's wrong! That's not true! That's true, but I suppose so. This conversation is going nowhere. I'm not so sure about that. That's it! This is it! There! It's you! It has to be you! That's wrong! I agree. I'll reveal the truth. I heard it. This is our answer. I can't back down. I'll cut through your words. I see it. I see now. It connects. It ends here. This is the truth of the case. Oh no. Damn it. I was wrong. Is this really the end? We can't let it end here. Everyone, be careful. It's no use. All right. Hey, wait. Right? Hey, Kaito, Ryoma, Gonta, Kokichi, Kyo, Kibo, Kirumi, Himiko, Maki, Tenko, Tsumugi, Angie, Miu. I've got this. I'll never forget this moment. I'll be able to believe in myself and be proud of being a detective. Yeah, that's right. That's true. You think so? Yes, that's it. Yeah. No, that's wrong. Really? I can't deny it. Well, then, because. Leave it to me. Ow! Huh? Well, that's, Thank you. Sorry. Huh? Why? What happened? You're right. Okay. Are you okay? Remember, is that all right? I knew it. But could it be, if I remember correctly, that's true? No. Thank you, Gonta. That might not be completely accurate. I thought you didn't care about how I felt. What do you mean? Kokichi! Kokichi, wait! What? Kokichi, stop right there! Huh? What? Neither do I. It's just, I get embarrassed saying things like that. My hand? Well, if it's just that, okay. Yeah. Huh? Maki. Stop! Hey! Angie! Hey, Angie, enough! Huh? That's true. Realize what? What? Of course not! There's no way I could do that! Huh? Wait a minute! I'm Shuichi Saihara. They call me the ultimate detective, but okay, that's... If we can determine who took the murder weapon from the kitchen, that would clear Kaede of suspicion. And where is the evidence that proves that? No, that's not possible. As we already discussed, there were signs of a struggle in that room. Kokichi, if you had information like that, why didn't you tell us sooner? Do you have evidence that proves that? Kaito. Yeah, I think that's for the best. Sounds like a close call. Okay, sure. It's all right. I won't run away. Ryoma, please don't run away either. Yeah, of course. If there's anything I can do, I'd be more than happy to. All right, I'm counting on that. I would never want you to face it alone, Rantaro. Yes, of course. What? Wait, what? Kirumi. Yes, of course. Thank you for expressing your feelings. Okay. Kaede? Sweetheart. Something you have to tell me? Yeah, I know. Hey, I'm just fine, okay? Let's keep practicing for the party. Kibo! Then I'll change it. Kibo gave us this one chance. If Kibo is doing what the outside world is telling him, we just have to convince him. I know we can change the world. We owe it to Kibo to try. The impossible is possible. All you gotta do is make it so. You can even change the world. No, we will change the world. For ourselves, and everyone who died. Even if we die, it's not the end. Our friends who died gave us their love. And we changed because of that. If we can inspire change in others, then that love will live on. That love will tear down the wall between fiction and reality, and it will live on forever. That's why I'm gonna change the world. As long as I have their love, I will change it. Even if this whole story is a lie, I will use that lie to change the world. Kibo, let me hear the voices of the outside world, and let them hear me. Just as I thought. You wanted Hope to win. We can't rule out suspects that way. We need to look at all the possibilities. More precisely, in Kaede, Makoto, and Hajime's, the three main characters' room. I believe Hajime is correct about the circumstances of Yasuhiro's murder. What we have to determine now is the murder weapon. There was no indication the body was punched. I don't believe fists were the murder weapon. A knife. I do remember seeing a knife in the kitchen. That could be it. It's not because I'm a detective. I'm still in training. It's not that I want to die. We fought so hard to survive. Of course we don't want to die. But it's not just about us. Everyone who died in the killing games felt the same way. They were all desperate to live. They wanted to survive. For themselves and for someone else. That desire isn't fictional to us. That pain isn't fictional to us. To us, the killing game is real tragedy. That's why we have to stop it. We won't let this happen ever again. Then we have to change it. Then it's decided. We all abstain from voting. We reject hope and despair. We refuse to bow to the demands of the outside world. That's right. This class trial is over. Now, start voting time. I'm abandoning this game. I won't play your game anymore, Monokuma. Now start the vote. Fine, be bored. We're not here for your entertainment. We're trying to survive. You're the ones who want us to be entertaining. If you're gonna complain, perhaps you should just stop watching. Even if we have to make the entire audience hate us, we're not gonna stop. We're gonna end our tragedy here. Kibo! His personality was erased? But it's because I'm weak and because I lost my way that I finally realized how cruel this hope really is. Himiko, Maki, will you abstain from voting with me? Himiko, we can put an end to this insane killing game. We're gonna use our lives to end this madness. But Himiko, you have to choose, okay? You can't look away. You can't back down. You have to choose. Only those who have found the truth can choose their destiny. If we refuse to vote, we all die. Hope and despair. Neither the victor. No one would want an ending like that. No, it wouldn't. Our lives are our strongest weapons. And with these weapons, we revolt against the outside world. It's okay, Maki. Believe in me. And believe in yourself. Just like you believed in Kaito. That's why you have to fight. Even if you're scared. Because you have that strength. Come on! It'd be a lousy story if the hero gave up so easily. Even if it is fiction. It's because of everyone's sacrifices that we've come this far. Their deaths have to be more than just fiction. There must be something we can do. We're going to use this fiction to change reality. We're going to end Danganronpa. Then I reject that world. I'll fight the world that inflicts suffering for entertainment. Then I'll fight the outside world from within this fiction. I refuse to vote. Yes, I know. That's why I'm doing it. If this ends without a single vote being cast for hope or despair, the audience would hate it. They'd never accept an ending like that. So I abstain. I refuse to give the outside world the ending it wants. I won't vote for Kibo or Tsumugi. I reject both hope and despair. I'll put a stop to this killing game, even if this is all fake. Our suffering and pain is real. I reject both hope and despair. I reject a world that would make us do this, which is why I abstain from voting. So this won't end in hope or despair. I don't give a damn. This killing game is over anyway. New characters are created just to show the outside world a fictional hope. They get written into these killing games, forced to betray one another. And at the end of the slaughter, the tragedy, the despair, hope always wins. Well, I've had enough of it. We're gonna end this right now. We won't let it end the way they want. We won't make a good ending or a bad one. To end this killing game and end it forever, we will reject Danganronpa. Tsumugi, you were right. I'm weak. I'm weaker than everyone else. If I didn't have my friends, I'd be useless. That's true even now. If Kibo and Maki didn't stand up, I would have ended it all right then. Yeah, I think so. The punishment after the final vote is to participate in another killing game. That's what Rantaro was talking about. Something similar must have happened in the last killing game, and he was given a choice. He sacrificed himself and was forced to participate again. All this means is, if we choose hope here, the killing game won't end. Tsumugi will still be the mastermind, Kibo will still represent the viewers, and Maki will be the new ultimate survivor. The killing game will begin again. Don't you see? If hope wins, the killing won't stop. It's because hope wins that the killing never stops. It's what the people want. They want hope to win. They want the happy ending. That's how the killing game has gone on 53 times. That's why I'm going to reject that hope. No, you don't get it. It's not going to end. It's going to keep happening over and over. When Maki said she was going to sacrifice herself just now, I thought, why? So many of our friends have sacrificed their lives. Why Maki? Why now? Why do we have to go through it again? The sorrow of losing Kaede and Kaito. Why do we have to feel that sadness over and over and over again? Why do we have to bear that burden? Well, I don't care how much the audience wants it. I'm not going to feel that way anymore. I don't want anyone to feel that way anymore. Even if this is fiction, even if we're all fictional, the pain in my heart is real. The sadness I feel when I lose the people I love is real. I won't forgive this game that treats us like toys. And if this is what the world wants, Tsumugi isn't trying to make us despair. She wants us to trust and hope. So I say no. I reject that hope. The reason this madness has gone on 53 times, it's because of hope. It's because the audience wants hope. They want to see hope defeat despair in the end. It's Hope's Peak Academy all over again. So if we fight for hope, we just be giving them what they want. And the killings will never end. Don't you see? Despair is the only choice. The people watching probably feel the same way. They want hope too. Even if it's fiction, everyone wants to feel hope. It gives them courage. And this killing game continues because we keep giving them the hope they want, while they ignore all the tragedies that we had to suffer to get there. Please, let me just ask one more thing. I have to know something before we vote. If Hope wins this final vote, Kibo and Maki will sacrifice themselves, and you, Tsumugi, the loser, will also be punished, correct? What kind of punishment will they receive? Please, tell me what it is. No, that is the problem. Because if the punishment is what I think it is, then everything would make sense, including why Rantaro participated in another killing game. You know the answer, Kibo. If you really are connected to the outside world, then I want you to find the answer. Is this what the outside world wants? Is this what they want from us? So what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do? What's gonna happen to us? It's all a lie, isn't it? Me? Everyone here? Everyone who died? Everything's a lie, right? I can't fight for a lie, can I? Hope? We decide? You're going to continue the game? Nothing will happen, so we can't go back to the way we were? What? We got this far, and you're telling us to sacrifice more of our friends? What? Kibo. But Kibo? Hope. What? Maki? Sacrifice? Wait, Maki! What do you mean, hope? I refuse. I won't accept that hope. It's because of hope that this whole thing is happening! I reject that hope! Hope itself is the villain here. We suffer because of hope. No matter how many false memories we've been implanted with, we aren't fictional! We're the same. We're all just like you? No way! Are you saying we wanted to participate in this killing game? That's not possible! How could we ever— Number 154. My name is— I've always been such a huge fan of Danganronpa and always wanted to be in one. If I were a contestant, I would want to be an ultimate detective. I know there's been a few in the past, and I've always loved those characters, so I would want to be one of them. But I don't have to be a detective. I'll be anything to be part of the show. And I mean that. Anything. I'd do anything to be part of Danganronpa. I promise, if I get selected, I will work as hard as I can. I will come up with the best, most gruesome murders, I promise. Everyone will love it. And an ultimate detective hasn't been the blackened yet, so I'm sure I could do that. I'm also thinking about the perfect punishment for an ultimate detective. What was that? No, it can't be. I'd never say something like, what? We really said that? What? Why am I here? Why did I even survive this long? What is this? Was that also a memory you used to control us? Then, who are you? I don't know who you are. If this killing game is connected to Hope's Peak Academy, then I believe you. This is certainly the work of someone carrying on Junko Inoshima's will, but we have nothing to do with Hope's Peak. So you can't be Junko. So who the hell are you? Cosplaying? How can she cosplay as students of Hope's Peak Academy? Because Tsumugi told us, what? It's fictional. It's all fictional? Danganronpa. What? But why? Why would you do this? Why make us think it's real? Monokuma, what's going on? So this was all a show. This whole killing game. Peaceful world? Wait, why would a peaceful world need a game like this? We were forced to play some fictional killing game? What? Could this be the 53rd one? The 53rd Danganronpa. The whole world is the real mastermind? Team Danganronpa? Shut up! Shut up! You created an entire fictional world to make us do this fictional killing game? Yes, and I noticed something strange about it. I actually did a little experimenting with a device hidden in the room. It allowed you to select the memory that a flashback light would recover. However, some of the memories were inconsistent with each other. One might say there are survivors, but another would say there are no survivors. Bizarre, right? The flashback lights allegedly help us recover our memories. We're supposed to remember the truth that we forgot, and there should only be one truth. But then having the option to recover contradictory memories doesn't make sense, huh? Yes, that's it. The flashback light isn't supposed to help us remember anything. It's a tool for implanting false memories. Yes, the memories you could select for the flashback lights weren't our real memories. They were memories to be implanted inside us. That's why the contents of those memories contradict each other. Once we're exposed to a flashback light, those memories become the truth to us, not real. They were all false memories. They were all lies. So that's why Kokichi had to die? The only reason we thought Kokichi was a remnant was because of the flashback lights. But he did say that he was the leader of a cult organization. That was a lie he invented himself. He wanted to be the mastermind. He wanted us to believe it. That's why he lied. He usurped the mastermind's role, but in doing so, became a thorn in their side. So to get rid of that hindrance, the mastermind played along with the lie. The mastermind manipulated us into thinking Kokichi was a remnant of despair. But that's not what's written here. The academy did not take applications. All of their students were scouted. Me too. I chose to come to Hope's Peak. At least, that's what I remember. Maybe so, but I'm not getting all this from just the book. There is other evidence as well. The killing game we're in now is one that began with Hope's Peak Academy. So this is the third game after Hope's Peak and Jabberwock Island. But remember what Rantaro said? But Rantaro's name wasn't listed among the past participants of the game. He was not present at the two killing games that Junko orchestrated. I'm not entirely sure, but it's clearly inconsistent, isn't it? And the inconsistencies don't stop there. Kokichi's account is also suspect. We remember Kokichi as a remnant of despair, but I don't think that's true. He wasn't a remnant of despair. The motive video we found in Kokichi's dorm room, an organization centered around petty crimes, one that forbids murder, and in addition to that, the group was only 10 people. That's far too few to be the same group that tried to sabotage the Gopher Project, meaning that whatever group Kokichi was a part of is not the remnants of despair. His motive video clearly contradicts our memories. The memory we have of Kokichi being a remnant has to be false. Kokichi didn't tell us because he wasn't exposed to that flashback light. And neither was Kaito. Kaito didn't appear to know anything about the remnants of despair or Junko Inoshima. Maybe it's better that they weren't. I think the people who were affected by that flashback light were wrong. All of these weird inconsistencies are from memories we got from the flashback lights. No, that's wrong! Maybe we all remember that there's no one left out there. But how do we know our memories are real? There's something that's been bothering me about our memories. Here, look at this book. This book contains years of research about Hope's Peak Academy. Nothing would indicate this book is a prop. I believe the information here is accurate, but there's a lot written in here that differs from our memories. To know that for certain, I'll need everyone's help. I want you all to tell me everything that you remember about Hope's Peak Academy. Wait a minute. Something doesn't add up here. Yes, everything we just said is just like we remember it, but it doesn't match what's written in the history of Hope's Peak Academy. One high school girl started the tragedy, the ultimate despair. Junko Enoshima. At least that's what I remember. But that's not what this book says. Ultimate despair doesn't just refer to Junko Enoshima. It refers to a group and the movement that came after. To put it simply, there's more to ultimate despair than Junko Enoshima. And that's not all. There are other discrepancies I'd like to point out. It wasn't the ultimate despair that trapped the 78th class in Hope's Peak Academy. It was the class themselves. They shut themselves in. It has to do with the Hope's Peak Academy shelter project. During the tragedy, the 78th class trapped themselves inside Hope's Peak Academy for protection. What you've been saying isn't consistent. First you said it was just coincidence. Let's just move on. I want to talk about one more thing from our memories. It's about the rebuilt Hope's Peak Academy that we were attending. We remember Hope's Peak Academy taking applications from talented students. They probably believed no one would ever get into that room. But we did. Their crime complete. The mastermind went back through the hidden passageway. The passageway led from the hidden room all the way to the girls' bathroom on the first floor. While the mastermind was pretending to use the girls' bathroom, they were actually using the hidden passageway. That's how they moved around without being noticed. Anyone could have used the hidden passageway. Not just the people in the dining hall, but looking at the survivors. Only you could possibly be the mastermind. If I'm wrong, please, refute me. Please tell us you aren't the mastermind. Tsumugi Shirogane, the ultimate cosplayer. That's the truth of this case, of the killing game itself. Well, Tsumugi, please just say something. If you don't defend yourself... What? Are you serious? You're the mastermind behind this? No, that's not possible. Junko Enoshima is dead. No need, Kibo, because this class trial is over. You killed Kaede, and Monokuma covered it up with a false narrative. The class trials are rigged, and this whole game is illegitimate. So, is that all you have to say? Huh? No, you're lying. If this isn't being shown to anyone, why care so much about rules? You're the one who keeps talking about making the game interesting. For whom? You're what? It all happened the way we determined in the first trial. Except at the end, I ran out of the room, and Kaede rolled the shot put ball into the air vent. At the same time, Rantaro was lured by the flash of the hidden camera Kaede said. He unwittingly stepped right into the path of the shot. The shot rolled down the path Kaede made, and then fell right onto Rantaro's head, killing him instantly. Or so we thought. It turns out that was just what the mastermind wanted us to believe. In reality, Kaede's murder plan happened quite differently. The shot put ball that Kaede rolled didn't actually hit Rantaro. He must have been surprised seeing a shot put ball drop out of nowhere like that, but his fate was sealed. The mastermind saw that Kaede's plan failed and stepped in to finish the job. The mastermind jumped out of the hidden room and attacked Rantaro from behind, and in their hand, the real murder weapon, their own shot put ball. Rantaro wasn't killed by Kaede's shot, but by the mastermind's. The mastermind picked up Kaede's shot and left their shot put ball at the scene. They also looted the survivor perk monopad from Rantaro's body. Those things in hand, they retreated back into the hidden room. I remember seeing the bookcase closing just as Kaede and I got there. The mastermind had probably just finished their crime. And so, the real truth was perfectly hidden from us. We went to the class trial and reached the truth that Kaede was the culprit. But that truth had been twisted by the mastermind. After the murder, the mastermind left the stolen monopad on the table in the hidden room and threw Kaede's shot put ball into the trash can. A little careless of them to not get rid of all the evidence. Am I right, Tsumugi? I don't want to believe it either. That one of our friends, the survivors, could do this. That's why I'm begging, Tsumugi. I'm begging you to refute me. I might be wrong. I was wrong before. About Kaede. That's why I need everyone's help. I don't care if my detective work is wrong. I want to hear your argument. Reaching the truth together is what cooperation means to me. The mastermind of this killing game, and the culprit who killed Rantaro, is you, Tsumugi. There are no other possibilities. You don't have anything to say? This is a class trial. Although we were forced into these class trials by the mastermind, that's how we survived. It was the only way. It was the only way we could survive. So please, Tsumugi, refute the evidence. Say something. Your life depends on it. Please. What? With this new evidence. Let's look back at Rantaro's murder. The night of the incident, Kaede and I were in the first-floor classroom. We were waiting for the mastermind to trigger the trap we set in the library. Around that time, there were 4 people in the dining hall, including the mastermind. The mastermind was probably irritated that no murders had yet occurred. After the motive was given, they knew that Kaede was planning something, but the mastermind wanted some insurance. They would take action if necessary. The mastermind excused themselves from the dining hall and went to the bathroom, and from there to the hidden room in the library that only the mastermind could enter. And there they waited. With less than an hour before the time limit expired, Rantaro moved the library's bookcase, which set off the receiver I was holding. Yes, I believe that's the case. The culprit entered the hidden room from the girls' bathroom on the first floor, and with the help of Mother Kuma, watched the situation in the library unfold. As soon as they saw that Kaede's plan failed, they waited for the camera interval and leaped out of the hidden room, shot-put ball in hand. The hidden door could open from the inside, so there was no need to use the card reader. In any case, the culprit attacked Rantaro with a shot-put ball, left it in the library, picked up the shot that Kaede had used, and returned to the hidden room. Yes, then they left the monopad and the shot in the hidden room, headed into the passageway, and returned to the girls' bathroom. But you said that you went to that bathroom during Rantaro's murder. How can you possibly refute that fact? Did you see one of them in the girls' bathroom? If one of them had gone into that bathroom, you would have seen each other, right? But you never mentioned that. What? Monokuma and the mastermind are the bad guys here. You don't want to die? Do you know how many of my friends were sacrificed? Before being destroyed, Mother Kuma told us something. That individual is, of course, the mastermind. Tsumugi was the only one who didn't say give birth. Everyone else said give birth. Tsumugi specifically used a different phrase. You didn't say give birth. You said make. You knew how to get Mother Kuma to create a spare, didn't you? That's why you specifically said make. If you had said give birth, Mother Kuma would have made a spare. And during the investigation, I found a classroom that makes flashback lights. I'll explain the details later. But there was something interesting. When the door is opened, the classroom reverts to its original state. Clearly the room is hiding something. But why create such a classroom at all? If the mastermind were a 17th person, they could have their own completely separate room to make flashback lights. Knowing this, we can make a few assumptions about the mastermind's identity. However, the implications aren't good. The mastermind is most likely one of the participants of this killing game. One of the 16 people who were forced to play this game. One of us. The classroom that makes flashback lights and the hidden room being visited often. It all suggests that the mastermind is someone we'd see every day at the academy. We need to go over everyone's alibi for Rantaro's murder again. Now that we know Rantaro was killed by the mastermind, it might lead somewhere. We might find a hole in someone's alibi that we didn't see at the time. Wait a minute, Tsumugi. You said you went to the bathroom, the girls' bathroom near the dining hall, right? The utility closet in that bathroom has a hidden passageway, one that's connected to the hidden room in the back of the library, which means it's possible to get into the hidden room from that bathroom. Around the time Rantaro was killed, Tsumugi went to that exact bathroom. I'm positive that when Rantaro was killed, the culprit was in the hidden room. It's too convenient to be coincidence. No, I don't think so. Remember that I had placed dust in the card reader in the library. I was trying to determine if the hidden door was opened with a card reader, but the dust didn't fall. That means nobody used that card reader. They took Kaede's shot-put ball and stowed it in the hidden room. To put it simply, Kaede didn't kill Rantaro. It was the mastermind. I believe the reason had something to do with a time limit motive. Kaede was keeping us all together, and we refused to kill each other to break up the stalemate. The mastermind introduced that motive. However, this was a gamble. They didn't want to cause total chaos after all. Yes, Kaede had a plan to kill the mastermind, but Rantaro was caught in the trap. However, her plan ultimately failed. The shot put ball that she rolled didn't hit Rantaro. Then, the mastermind manipulated the scene to make it look like Kaede succeeded. All they had to do was hide Kaede's shot in the hidden room that only they could enter. Yes, she was. She didn't actually kill anyone, but she was executed nonetheless, because the mastermind framed her for Rantaro's murder, and Monokuma played along. He let us believe the mastermind's lie. We were all fooled, including Kaede. We thought she was the culprit until the very end. And you want to tell us this game is fair? That there are rules? That's all bullshit! This game makes no sense at all. I won't forgive them. I'll never forgive them for breaking the rules and killing Kaede. So cruel. I'll never forgive them. And I will avenge Kaede. I swear on her kindness and her love and her grave that I will avenge her. No, Monokuma. I will end this. I will reveal the identity of the mastermind and end the killing game. No, the mastermind can't be a 17th person. That contradicts what Mother Kuma said. It implies that the mastermind wasn't in the hidden room the whole time. They must have been coming and going between the room and the academy, right? Would someone who has to stay completely hidden really risk that? If you're so strict about following the rules, does that mean that someone is watching? If that's the case, no, that's not the truth. I'm certain of that. It's a lie that you made up. That's right. Kaede wasn't the one who killed Rantaro. The true culprit is the mastermind controlling Monokuma. They're the one who killed Rantaro. The most important fact we discovered during the investigation is this. The shot put ball that Rantaro was killed with was different than the one Kaede had. I found a shot put ball in the trash can in the hidden room, but it was not the murder weapon. That shot put ball didn't have any blood on it. Rather, there was a pink fiber stuck to that shot. Do you remember how Kaede was carrying the shot put ball? It was wrapped in her spare vest, her pink vest. Yes, it's a fiber from her vest. That can only mean that the ball I found was the one that was in Kaede's backpack. That shot put ball did not have blood on it, so it could not have been the murder weapon. In short, the shot that Kaede used didn't hit Rantaro. If so, the fiber on the shot put ball would have been washed off as well. It's clear to me that the real murder weapon is different than the shot Kaede had. Yes, Kaede set up the bookcase and rolled the shot into the vent, but that shot didn't hit Rantaro. Her plan failed. The mastermind took it from the library. Only they could get in that room after all. Rantaro was killed by the mastermind, who made it look like Kaede was the culprit. That required a bit of trickery on the mastermind's part. They prepared their own shot to kill Rantaro and switched it with Kaede's shot. No, Rantaro was not the only one in the library at the time the murder occurred. This survivor perk monopad is proof of that. The monopad was given exclusively to Rantaro as his survivor perk, correct? But when we searched Rantaro's body, he didn't have it on his person. He only had his student handbook monopad, which means that someone took this monopad from Rantaro after the murder. What? Keep quiet, will you? I don't have time for your nonsense right now. But remember, Rantaro brought the survivor perk monopad to the library. If it's missing now, that must mean someone stole it. No, there is no doubt Rantaro brought the survivor perk monopad to the library. The picture taken just before he died clearly shows him holding it. No, it was definitely this same monopad. You see the way the blood has dried here? The outline of his fingers matches how he was holding it in the picture. I do. That's why the monopad Rantaro is holding in this picture has to be the same monopad we have now. The one who took that monopad is the mastermind. I'm sure of it. The survivor perk monopad was found in the library's hidden room, and only the mastermind would have been able to enter that room, correct? The mastermind saw what was happening in the library. They had surveillance cameras. Yes, via Mother Kuma. That's an important point. If Mother Kuma receives the camera feeds, the mastermind could ask it anything. They would know about the situation in the library and the hidden room. The mastermind was probably terrified by the idea of us picking up Rantaro's perk. I don't know about that. You look calm now. But at the time, you must have been pretty desperate. The monopad clearly stated that there was a mastermind in the academy. If we knew then that a mastermind was behind everything, we would have worked together. But you couldn't let that happen. You needed us to go after each other. The reason he went to the library before he was killed, and why he knew about the hidden door, that's what I thought at the time. But it appears that assumption was false. There was an actual reason Rantaro knew about the door. Rantaro was given this monopad as a kind of survivor perk. It has a map of the entire academy, including areas that had not yet been unlocked. Of course, that includes the hidden room. The monopad also contained a video Rantaro recorded for himself. The message was what inspired him to go to the library to investigate the hidden room. That's right. Rantaro must have come to the same conclusion that Kaede and I did. I assume because he didn't trust us. The killing game had just started after all. What he said in his video message certainly didn't help either. He told himself to only share this information with people he could trust. It was probably confusing to him too. That's why he didn't consult us. He didn't know if he could trust that video, or trust us, or even trust himself. He must have been so lost. But with the time limit approaching, he decided to take a chance. The only people who knew about the hidden door at that time were Rantaro and I. I had Kaede with me, and I thought I could trust her. So I told her about the hidden room. That was the difference between me and Rantaro, I suppose. I had Kaede. No, it's not pointless. Now that we know this new information, if we look back at Rantaro's case, we can find a new truth that we missed at the time. Yes. He threatened me, told me that if I didn't do what he said, he'd kill us all. He wanted me to lie about what I saw, so that the trial would be more interesting. But I can't do it anymore. I can't keep lying like this. I have to tell the truth. Kokichi isn't dead. He's alive. I'm so sorry, Kibo, but it's true. Everyone, please, don't vote for Kaito. There's no doubt about it. Kokichi is in that exisal. He's the culprit. I'm not wrong. We can't vote for Kaito. Huh? Kaito, no! All right, I'll give you an answer. The reason I called for this trial is I wish to retry a past case. The first one, the murder of Rantaro Amami. I've found new evidence relevant to the case. In light of that evidence, I demand a retrial. What if our vote was wrong? To test the validity of our vote, we're going to retry the entire case. If Monokuma was wrong, the validity of these trials would be in question. The entire killing game wouldn't make sense anymore. You shouldn't have a problem with this if you have nothing to hide, Monokuma. There are several. But before we go any further, I want to discuss Rantaro's talent. He was the ultimate survivor. Rantaro became the ultimate survivor after surviving a past killing game. After his memory was wiped, he participated in the killing game once again. I'm not sure yet, but after I learned that Rantaro was the ultimate survivor, I deduced his objective. The press got lower and lower, and just as the culprit disappeared from view, Kokichi pressed the force stop button and the camera's pause button simultaneously. The two then switched places and also switched roles. The culprit and the victim. The would-be victim became our culprit and started up the press and camera. Kokichi had saved the culprit's life because his trick required their cooperation. He wanted to win the killing game, even if it meant dying himself. And so, Kokichi was crushed by the press, and the whole thing was caught on video. The culprit's left sleeve was dangling from the press, making us think he was the victim. Now alone, the culprit collected the video camera and tore the hydraulic press's power cord so that it could never be raised again. This would make it impossible for us to determine the identity of the crushed body. But there was another reason the victim was killed in this way. It obfuscated the cause of death, making the case that much more difficult to solve. This was all part of Kokichi's plan to create a murder not even Monokuma could figure out. With the press disabled, the culprit returned to the bathroom to flush Kokichi's clothes. Finally, they climbed inside of an exisal to hide and waited with bated breath. And here they are now in this trial, pretending to be Kokichi. They're trying to deceive Monokuma in order to defeat the true mastermind. And that's it. That's Kokichi's unidentified culprit trick. The culprit is in that exisal. It's you, isn't it? Kaito Momota. the ultimate astronaut. I'm right, aren't I? That's you in there, isn't it, Kaito? Can I just say something? I'd like to have one last conversation before we vote. You see, before we vote, there's something I have to say. I just need you all to listen. All right, let's pin this down. Who is inside that exisal? Kokichi, I'm sorry. I just can't lie for you anymore. I'm so sorry, everyone. I've deceived you all. The truth is, after we found the crushed body, I saw Kokichi. There was a lot to prepare, and not a lot of time. They had to work fast. If Kokichi died from the Strike 9 poison, the whole plan would be ruined. After fabricating the scene in the bathroom, the culprit dragged Kokichi to the hydraulic press. This is how the swipe pattern bloodstain from the bathroom to the press was created. Kokichi, with the support of the culprit, stood in front of the press's control panel. The two of them were finally ready to execute the insane lie. While Kokichi was setting up the video camera near the hydraulic press's control panel, the culprit laid face up inside the press, draping their coat over their shoulders. Then, Kokichi activated the press and the camera's record button at the same time. The hydraulic press came down slowly, all caught on tape for us to see. Normally, the safety function would have triggered, but the electrobomb had disabled it.